get into it. We can get into it. Body fluids on the floor, get into it like a hood. We can get into it. We can get into it. Body fluids on the floor, get into it like a hood. What's the motion? Swing a right finger with a left, going straight, take the heart out his chest. Nut buck in the club, homegirls lose the heel saying, fuck my new curls and fuck them bum bitches. They talk like they hands on Mike Tyson. It's kill to be killed when I'm fighting. My sisters not watching, they jumping like double dutch. They like transition, cause violence is given. Soft bitches is tripping.
Before I start tonight, I just wanted to read a brief statement that I prepared. I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms. And I stand with my friends in the Jewish community. And that, Kanye, is how you buy yourself some time. I gotta tell you guys, I've probably been doing this 35 years now. And early in my career, I learned that there are two words in the English language that you should never say together in sequence. And those words are the and Jews. I've never heard someone do good after they said that. Kanye's gotten into some scrapes before. Normally when he's in trouble, I pull up immediately. But this time I was like, you know what? Let me see what's gonna happen first. I just wanna see where this is all going. I can't even remember how it started. Vaguely, I remember it started with a tweet, strange tweet. It was like, I'm feeling a little sleepy. I'm gonna give me some rest, but when I wake up, I'm gonna go DEFCON 3 on the Jews. And then he just went to bed. I was up all night worried. What is he gonna do to the Jews? I grew up around Jewish people. I have a lot of Jewish friends. So I'm not freaked out by your culture. I know a little bit about it just from hanging around. I'd be like, yo, let's go out after school tomorrow. They'd be like, we can't go out. It's Shanana tomorrow. I'd be like, where? What is Shanana? I had so many questions. Why do some of your people dress like Run DMC? When Kanye woke up from that nap, he went right to work. A year ago, I'd seen him on a podcast called Drink Champs, a great show, and it was an amazing appearance. Noriega and them were there, the rappers that I love, and they all had their gold chains and stuff on. And Kanye said, only millionaires wear chains. They said, what? He said, I'm a billionaire. Billionaires don't wear their money on their body. I tucked my chain and I said, oh, snap. It was a good appearance. It was fun and funny. But when he woke up, he went on Drink Champs again. This time, he was on one. He was mad about something. He said, I can say anti-Semitic things, and Adidas can't drop me. Now what? Adidas dropped that nigga immediately. Ironically, Adidas was founded by Nazis. And they were offended. I guess the student surpassed the teacher. It's a big deal. He had broken the show business rules. There's just a rule. You know, the rules of perception. If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and you should never speak about it. Kanye got in so much trouble, Kyrie got in trouble. Kyrie Irving posted a link to a movie that he had seen on Amazon. No caption on the post or nothing like that. But apparently this movie had some, I don't know, anti-Semitic tropes or something. And it was some weird title like From Hebrew to Negro or something. And the NBA told me he should apologize, and he was slow to apologize. And then the list of demands to get back in their good graces got longer and longer, and this is where, you know, I draw the line. I know the Jewish people have been through terrible things all over the world, but you can't blame that on black Americans. You just can't. You know what I mean? Thanks for the one person that said me. A fair punishment would be you should just post a link to Schindler's List and y'all write your own captions. Kyrie Irving's black ass was nowhere near the Holocaust. In fact, he's not even certain it existed. I saw one news pundit screaming about Kanye. She said, mental health is no excuse for that type of language. Yes, it is, bitch. You can kill somebody if you're mentally ill. Listen, okay, I don't think Kanye is crazy at all. I think he's possibly not well. Well, I've been to Hollywood. I don't want y'all to get mad at me. I'm just telling you, I've been to Hollywood. This was just what I saw.
Yo, what up?
It's your boys,
Yes,
Kells,
You know it.
and Benda.
Benda in the place to be, son.
How you guys been? Today we've got some juicy McJuice juice for you.
Got the sauce, guys, and we got some news. Just want to touch on some subjects with Kanye West.
Yes, he's been in the news, in the media, and everywhere, the social everything.
Exactly. Evil Kanye right now.
Don't think you can turn on your phone without seeing this guy.
Fortnite balls, I'm gay, I like boys, I kidnap autistic kids, live.
This guy's being banned from Fortnite.
Rapper Kanye West has allegedly been banned from Fortnite Battle Royale following his recent controversies. It is being reported the owner of Yeezy had over 1,500 Fortnite wins, with a locker that included over 400 legendary skins, including the OG Black Knight. Sources say the rapper is devastated by this news and has now attempted to switch to Apex Legends, which he has described as, quote, mid.
To grocery store.
Exactly, grocery stores. You can't go to Ralph's or Trader Joe's in Los Angeles. So yeah, it's tough out there for a pimp. It's hard
crazy.
out for a pimp.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the first thing.
Even Ye canceled himself from Kanye West. Like Ye split from West.
Yeah.
Like they're not together. He got canceled.
Oh, yeah, West and Ye?
Yeah.
Ye and West.
Ye canceled Kanye.
Ye canceled Kanye.
Yeah, it's bad.
Skeet, Pete Davidson.
Breast milk. Oh, that's how we go back into the conversation. So evil Kanye, you know what I'm saying? It's hard out here for a pimp. Kanye's doing his best to survive the, I would say, shitstorm that is
the world
flung his way. The world has been on him, you know.
Everyone's shitting on this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to say, someone says it's easy to kick someone while they're down.
Yeah, very.
And I feel like we collectively people kind of see this and they go, wow, there's someone I can shit on today.
Yeah.
And Kanye's been the target, and
unfortunately, yeah, he's been pow-powed, you know. So. And
I love when he's crazy, he's this, he's that. I guess it's also easy to simplify a human and just say they're crazy.
Yeah.
And know nothing else.
It's easy to dismiss people and package them up into a box, but people don't go crazy for no apparent reason. There's circumstances that push people mentally into a bad space.
It's how tough he is. So let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, they are trying to kill me?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is Dave Chappelle going to Africa? Why does Mariah Carey make a $100 million deal and take her clothes off on TRL? A weak person cannot get to sit here and talk to you. Ain't no weak people talking to you. So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy. They're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
Or whatever the case may be. But in the case of Kanye, I don't think it's that he's in a bad space. It's just he's being overt by saying that he's had some contractual issues and that he noticed that there happened to be a pattern with his contractual issues, that he just noticed at one point on his team, he had 8 different people on his team that happened to be of Jewish descent. And, you know, he just feels like the African-American community, like, we don't have any ownership.
Of anything.
We don't have any ownership of anything at all.
And we actually don't. That is the truth. That is
we literally
full
don't.
stop.
Yeah.
Like, we can name Brian and the lads who own Walmart. I don't know who the owners, but you know, you have Caucasians or white people who own a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of the I guess Jewish community who are more into the entertainment industry. If you're talking music, if you're not talking music, it's sports and also I guess film.
Yeah.
Film and television.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they, the Jewish community, they've been great at, you know, marketing and having control over certain pockets of society. With that being said, the African-American community, we don't have any ownership of a lot of things that we bring and value we bring into the market, whether that's through our creation of music, jazz, hip hop, soul, R&B, whether that's in sports, in our athleticism. A lot of African Americans specifically, they were breeded during slavery as human cattle to be better
super slaves.
Yeah, to be
initially.
better. Yeah, to be better workers in the field and crops. And so they would actually kill off the weaker slaves and then try to interbreed the stronger ones.
Yeah.
And literally split their families up. They didn't care, you know, whether a baby got sent this way and a mother got sent to another state, but they ripped families apart just to breed the best of the best.
I can wholeheartedly say I know Kyrie Irving is not anti-Semitic.
When given the chance to say, are you anti-Semitic or not, he didn't say, no, I'm not anti-Semitic. At the press conference, tell us about that movie, why he did. He said, stop dehumanizing me. And the movie is saying white Jews invented the Holocaust and 6 million Jews didn't get killed. Okay, I know that isn't right.
Right.
There's a gigantic historical record. Jewish people know when you dehumanize us this way, we know what's around the corner.
So in that same statement as those are the tropes that dehumanize Jewish people, the same buck breaking.
What's that? I don't really know what that means, to be perfectly honest.
The slave masters would bring the buck, the one that gets out of line.
In the Caribbean, they had seasoning plantations, which were plantations used to break the slaves. Well, one thing that they were doing on these plantations, especially in Jamaica, they were doing a process called buck breaking, where the white supremacist slave owner or the white supremacist overseer would literally rape black men in front of the whole black population in order to break his spirit, in order to break him down as a man, in order to show dominance against him, in order to show the rest of the black population that this is not your leader. I just made your leader submit to me sexually. And this happened a lot in Jamaica. This is why homosexuality is so looked down upon in Jamaican culture today.
So all the other slaves would see lash after lash showed them the power to set an example. This is what you must do to fall in line. So when we see the 6 things that Kyrie must do to get his job back,
Right.
that's dehumanizing.
And so, you know, there's a lot of physicality that goes into that. So, yeah, so we have a lot of good athletes, you know, that happen to be of African descent, you know, from wherever part of Africa, you know, they were trafficked from. So, yeah, we don't have any ownership of things, and we've been just business since we got to America. African Americans have been just, we've been cargo since we got here. And Kanye is just pretty much saying enough is enough. We need to be able to have some sort of voice or some sort of say-so and how we get controlled. So,
and yeah, he's not asking for the world.
Yeah,
I think what in one of his
he doesn't hate an entire community.
No,
he just noticed that there's a pattern of the same community that happens to control a lot of areas of entertainment that African Americans happen to be involved in, so it feels a bit exploitative.
And I think people lose the things he's saying, and break it down for some people when he's saying that he wants to look at the contracts. A lot of people will read what he says or hear what he says, and you take it very 2D or very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
He's not saying he wants to just grab random contracts and just look at them for the fun of it. What you're missing out is these contracts are usually betters the execs of these big companies. And an example to give you is Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift is involved in a public feud again, and this time it's over who gets to own her music. Right now, every song off her first 6 albums lies in the hands of this man, Scooter Braun.
של ג'סטין ביבר. לכל הטירוף הזה אחראי יהודי בן 29 מקונטיקט. שמואל בן אליעזר?
my Hebrew name.
סקוטר בראון, זה שמו האמריקאי, הוא האיש שהמציא את ג'סטין ביבר.
Everyone knows Taylor Swift. She wanted to get her records back.
Yeah.
She could not because of what she signed.
Yeah.
Same with sports players. Usually, their contracts aren't that great. We also have the same issue with musicians. You can talk, whether you talk about someone in the rap game, hip-hop game, R&B game, a lot of these artists do not own even their likeliness.
Yeah.
And when I mean that, I mean they don't even own their look. The exec owns it, and usually those executives and those people who are the heads of recording companies or big studios are predominantly with the Jewish community.
Do you know why Prince, the famous rock star that was a friend of mine, do you know why he called himself the artist when he came back? He calls himself the artist because that's what they call us in our contracts. Oh, these contracts are crazy. You should hear the terminology they say in these contracts. To use your name and likeness in perpetuity throughout the universe. Who the fuck could possibly know what that means? Nobody does. It's so complicated, in fact, that when you're a kid like me, you have to hire somebody to tell you what that means. And you sit down at a table and you do the contract game. And that's how I got with Comedy Central. I signed the contract. But I signed the contract the way that a 28-year-old expectant father that was broke signs a contract. I was desperate. I needed a way out, and it wasn't good money, and it wasn't good circumstances, but what else am I gonna do, I said. And all these white people sitting at that table told me, trust us, Dave, it's a good contract. And I looked around the table, and they all seemed to agree it was a good contract. But what if it was like that game of 3-Card Monte? What if they were all friends and I didn't know it?
And all he's saying for the African-American community, he wants it back.
Yeah.
How can we not even just own ourselves? That in itself is slavery.
Exactly.
So it's new age slavery. Yeah, you're not on a field, but someone technically on paper owns every piece of information that you are putting out there. And it doesn't matter if you wrote it, sung it, and your picture's on it.
Yeah.
I own it.
Yeah.
And how would you feel? You know, like it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah. So just to approach and attack the elephant in the room, I would say the elephant in the room for me is the fact that he uses the word Jewish or Jews in general. And what Kanye is saying is by business model, the Jewish community, they've made a fantastic business model. It's a great preference for most people to actually emulate and copy.
The legendary actor and comedian Adam Sandler is known for having his celebrity buddies co-star in his films. However, it's always been a mystery why he does that. Alan Covert, a buddy of Sandler's from their college days who's only ever had one lead part in the Sandler-produced Grandma's Boy, is really the co-star with whom Sandler works the most frequently with. The breakthrough star of Home Alone 2, Rob Schneider, whose friendship with Sandler dates back to their time on Saturday Night Live, has the title of being the comedian who works with him the most frequently.
Freaks and Geeks not only served as Rogen's introduction into Hollywood, it was his first ever professional acting role, but it also marked the beginning of what would become a long-standing creative partnership of sorts with Franco. After Freaks and Geeks ended in 2000, Rogan teamed up with Franco to star in the 2008 Apatow co-produced stoner comedy Pineapple Express. He then enlisted Franco to star in his feature film directorial debut, This Is the End, in 2013, and tapped Franco to be part of his and Evan Goldberg's controversial political comedy The Interview in 2014. Rogan has also starred in a number of Franco's films.
Whether they want people to emulate and copy that or not, it's great information that could help humanity. And pretty much the formula that the Jewish community tends to operate in is that they operate in groups of 5. I don't know if that's around the Star of David, because there's some different controversial views on Star of David, or, just the shapes of certain things, whether that's a 5-point or 6-point star, but they work in groups of 5. And so what that means is when one does well, they make sure that everyone around the group, at least in a group of 5, that they find ways that for all their peers to make money.
Yeah.
And so they do it in such a way that they look out for a team of people. And that's a cultural type arrangement that, like, hey, if one of us comes up of our culture, we're going to make sure that we bring up at least 5 other people with us. And so that keeps everyone together as a collective, and it keeps everyone financially affluent. If one person is rich and the rest are poor, then it's a problem, because now you're the breadwinner and everyone else is looking at you to be relied upon. So it's an excellent business model, to be honest, at the end of the day.
For example, Carl Laemmle marketed clothing before starting Universal Pictures. Adolf Zucker sold furs before founding Paramount Pictures. And Jesse Lasky, one of his partners at Paramount, was previously a vaudeville horn player. And there were many others, like Shmuel Gelbfus, who changed his name to Samuel Goldwyn once he quit selling gloves and entered the film business. Marcus Lowe also came from vaudeville before pivoting to movie theaters and production. Marcus Lowe bought the small studio Metro Pictures in 1920 to feed movies into his theaters. When Metro needed to grow to keep up with demand, Lowe bought out Samuel Goldwyn's company, Goldwyn Pictures. They later merged with another company owned by Louis B. Mayer. Their combined company was called Metro Goldwyn Mayer. The head of MGM, Louis B. Mayer, was so eager to be Kirk Kerkorian, a major investor in Las Vegas casinos, purchased controlling interest in MGM. And Paramount Pictures was sold to Gulf and Western Industries, a conglomerate that included manufacturers of auto parts, clothing, and mattresses. This shift from independent businesses to divisions of larger corporations proved permanent for the Hollywood studios.
You can also have people looking out for you continuously who are your people.
Yeah.
You have to remember that. So you're the people around you, you trust. You obviously don't trust anyone else outside your circle.
Yeah.
That's
That's also the other issue when you ostracize yourself solely to a community. And what Kanye is saying is like, hey, these secrets that I found out about how the Jewish community operates, I've been told not to share that. And he's like, look, I'm not your personal hard drive. He's like, I want people to know better ways to improve their life. It doesn't matter what culture they come from. In my case, it's for, my people, which till this day have been exploited because we don't own anything. That's the biggest thing, is that a lot of African Americans have zero ownership of anything.
And and if you think it's what, this is wacky, they've even put it in TV shows like Entourage. If you've watched that, Ari Gold, is one of the main characters. There are scenes that we might throw up here.
Yeah,
literally, it shows Ari Gold talking to a fellow Jewish friend, and they are working together to make a film. In fact, I think there's 3 of them that are all Jewish in this one scene or episode.
Your father's got $100 million in the bank. How much stress can you have?
The point is, Haggis is freaked, okay? And Gadoff has given us till sundown tonight to find a replacement, or he's gonna shut the whole fucking thing down.
I hear Cruz is going for 10 cents on the dollar.
No. I want your boy, Ari. I want Ben.
What'd you say? It's all good. She's heading to Temple now. That was a sure thing.
Amanda, I spoke to the big studio chief this morning, okay? And he's prepared to meet Vince's quote.
Great, then this should be easy.
Fantastic. So we got a deal at $3 million.
This is wildly inappropriate, coming to my shore on this day of all days to discuss money. I have a bad enough reputation here after the hellish divorce I've just gone through.
At least you're at a place where you can meet a nice Jewish girl, Arthur. Come on. We were at Temple, too. This is time sensitive. God will understand. We all have to take care of our own.
And they all go to the same, I don't know what the word is for the church.
Synagogue.
Synagogue. And we're talking the producers there.
Their temple.
And the exec is there. So they're all in the same synagogue. So you can literally just go over to the exec and be like, hey, I need this film pushed. Yup, talk to my assistant. I don't have that privilege. And being of African descent, I'm not saying it's unfair, but it is in the sense that if I was Jewish, I could just walk over.
Yeah.
But instead, I have to hustle my ass off to go even get close to an exec.
Yeah, to be seen on a level of being respected by your peers, to even get invited into those circles.
That's what I was going to say. I might not even be there because I'm not invited. That's the issue.
You might not even be invited into those circles. So, in all sectors of society, whether that's in politics, entertainment, sports, there's fraternal groups that exist within that, whether you're a part of the Freemasons or if you're in LA, your Church of Scientology or Church of Kabbalah. They do have these groups that exist, and they look out for people within their community. But the African Americans, unfortunately, from what we've experienced and what we've dealt with, I would say our only real point of unity was around civil rights. And when civil rights was going on, according to the FBI, the reason why the FBI was even established was because they deemed the African unity was the greatest threat to American society.
Come July 15th of 1964, I turned 21, and the next day I packed my bags and went to Mississippi. I felt that I had always been brought up as part of my Jewish upbringing that Jews are not safe unless everybody's safe. Jews are not free unless everybody else are free because they'll come for them and then they'll come for us.
American Jews played a key role in the founding and funding of some of the most important civil rights organizations. Just after Cheney, Goodman, and Schwimmer disappeared, 17 rabbis were arrested alongside Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others. Their crime? Sitting and praying at a whites-only restaurant. This was no isolated incident. King shared a long, fruitful relationship with many Jewish leaders. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel walked arm in arm with Dr. King in his 1965 March on Selma, and Rabbi Joachim Prince warmed up the crowd for his good friend Dr. King to deliver his iconic I Have a Dream speech. AJC treasurer Stanley Levison was a close friend of Dr. King. He drafted some of his articles and speeches, prepared his tax returns, and raised money for organizations that Dr. King supported. Atlanta's Hebrew Benevolent Congregation. Their rabbi, Jacob Rothschild, was a rare, outspoken critic of segregation in the South, and he had his community's support. After Rabbi Rothschild publicly supported the Brown versus Board of Education ruling, white supremacists bombed the temple, which was empty at the time. Dr. Martin Luther King spoke to 400 people at Congregation B'nai Yehuda, where Esther Swerk Brown was a proud member.
Awarded the American Liberties Medallion by the American Jewish Committee for his exceptional advancement of the principles of human liberty.
They're worried about Africans someday coming out, rising up, and being able to establish their own without the need of their former slave masters. So...
And it's dangerous being able to look after yourself.
Yeah.
It is dangerous. It's dangerous when you don't need anyone. The what keeps people in power is that need.
The need, yeah.
The need part.
Keeping people indebted to you.
Yeah.
And that's what Kanye feels like, that we've been exploited for a very long time. I would say coming out of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery in America getting to a point of abolishment, which we were the last country to abolish slavery. UK had abolished it. Some of the Dahomey people, which are in the film The Woman King, that tribe was still trafficking Africans to America. They were still capturing Africans and trying to enslave Africans. And this was a tribe in Africa that was actively assisting and helping American slave traders still continue on this travesty. But nevertheless, post-slavery, we were released back into society without an understanding of how to regather our community and how to rebase and reshape ourselves. And I think for America, they felt a great fear in that. I think they've had a great bit of resentment that these former Africans that were property, now they're free. And on top of that, we had a lot of influence from the Christian community and from the Islamic community. So in the 1960s, and it's been noted by multiple people, Russell Simmons, as of lately, made a few statements about how the Jewish community helped during civil rights. I think I was saying to you before, there's footage of Bernie Sanders helping out at a protest that was going on in the 1960s, and he's being hosed down with water. So we ended up with what that we would consider other allies, for our cause for civil rights. But how Kanye and quite a few other people see it is that the Jewish community got involved in the civil rights movement to usher us out of the way of joining any Islamic influence.
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, so that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolence. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's just the American white man.
Malcolm X did serve a role. I think he played a role in pointing out the problem, calling attention to it, but his great problem was an inability to emerge with a solution.
Martin Luther King Jr. was killed tonight in Memphis, Tennessee, shot in the face as he stood alone on the balcony of his hotel room. He died in a hospital an hour later. Last night, he said this:
I just want to do God's will.
You never hurt nobody.
And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
When King's message of nonviolence ended in his violent death, folks finally realized that they couldn't pray their way to freedom. Just what the Panthers had been saying all along. America was burning. Nationwide, our enrollment doubled in 2 weeks.
We feel that the problem, number one, of the black man in America is beyond America's ability to solve. It's a human problem, not an American problem or a Negro problem. And as a human problem or a world problem, we feel that it should be taken out of the jurisdiction of the United States government and the United States courts and taken into the United Nations in the same manner that the problems of the black man in South Africa, Angola, and other parts of the world, and even the way they're trying to bring the problems of the Jews in Russia into the United Nations because of violation of human rights. We believe that our problem is one not of violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen in the United States, we're denied the right to be a human being.
Mr. X, may I thank you very much for coming on our program and perhaps clearing away some of the cobwebs of misconception that some of us might have had about your belief. And I think you're a very sincere man, and it takes a lot of courage to admit a former belief is wrong, and we congratulate you for that and the service you performed tonight in giving us your views. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, this is Pruitt. He'll be working with us from here on in.
But isn't he?
Special people for special problems.
So I didn't know the FBI had...
Obviously, there are many things that you don't know. Should we just get to the point? The Black Panthers have united with other organizations sponsored by the communists to undermine our efforts in Vietnam. In the opinion of Mr. Hoover, the Black Panther Party is public enemy #1. They have quite simply guaranteed their own extinction.
Jesus.
You know, I really don't even need to say that your department's handling of the Black Panthers, in particular Inspector Brimmer's so-called undercover operation, has been a complete travesty. Memos from the commissioner, etc., backing Mr. Hoover's decision to place the Black Panther Party and their subversive activities under the full jurisdiction of the Bureau.
Tale that history has told about who killed Malcolm X.
I apologize on behalf of our nation's law enforcement for this decades-long injustice.
After a nearly 2-year investigation, 2 of the 3 people convicted in the 1965 assassination of the world-famous civil rights icon, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam, have now been exonerated.
I regret that this court cannot fully undo the serious miscarriages of justice.
Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance telling a judge after revisiting the nearly 60-year-old case that the FBI and NYPD withheld evidence that may have cleared the 2 men decades ago.
The FBI lied, the NYPD lied, and the DA's office admitted that it also made false statements.
The release of a deathbed confession of a former undercover New York police officer who admitted to being part of a broad New York police and FBI conspiracy targeting Malcolm. In the confession, the former officer, Raymond Wood, who died last year, admitted he entrapped 2 members of Malcolm's security team in another crime, a plot to blow up the Statue of Liberty, just days before the assassination. On Saturday, Ray Wood's cousin Reggie Wood read the letter at a news conference at the Shabazz Center in Harlem.
It was my assignment to draw the 2 men into a felonious federal crime so that they could be arrested by the FBI and kept away from managing Malcolm X's Audubon ballroom door security on February 21st, 1965.
In his letter, Raymond Wood also revealed he was inside the Audubon ballroom at the time of Malcolm's assassination. At least one other undercover New York police officer, Gene Roberts, was also inside after infiltrating the security team of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, the group Malcolm founded after leaving the Nation of Islam. Both officers, Wood and Roberts, were part of the Bureau of Special Services and Investigations, or BOSSI, a secretive political intelligence unit of the NYPD nicknamed the Red Squad. Following Malcolm's assassination, police arrested 3 members of the Nation of Islam for his murder, but questions about the guilt of the men have lingered for decades. In his letter, Raymond Wood openly says one of the men, Thomas Johnson, was innocent and was arrested to, quote, protect my cover and the secrets of the FBI and the NYPD, unquote.
They didn't want us being affiliated with anything that had anything to do with the Islamic community. There was a lot of great fear around the Black Panther Party. There was a lot of fear around Malcolm X and what the Nation of Islam meant and what they stood for. And the Nation of Islam pretty much was saying, hey, let us feed, gather, clothe, shelter our own. Let us manage our own community and let us just coexist and we'll be fine. But leave us be, let us have our own. Martin Luther King, who is always referenced. In a racial situation, they bring up Martin Luther King every single time. It's like guaranteed across the board. Yeah. Kanye just had this interview with Lex Wessner or something. Not Wessner, but Lex. He's a podcaster who happens to be of Jewish descent. And that was Lex's go-to point. He mentions, Martin Luther King had a dream. And so I would go back to Martin Luther King, Kanye. Look, Martin Luther King had a dream, but his whole philosophy was that I want to fit in. I want to be a part of America. Africans deserve to be a part of America. But what Malcolm X understood that Malcolm didn't get is that when you live for inclusion, you're at the mercy of your oppressor.
Yeah.
And Martin was lining up to be like, I want to fit in, boss. Tell me what I got to do. And so you set yourself up to be an indentured servant. And so people feel like we African Americans got exploited and pushed out of the way from having any Islamic influence, which actually would have gave us some bit of structure on our own, to at least have some sort of base. And instead they redirected us back into the Christian and direction of talking about Jesus and, you know, and some of these things. And so we pretty much put ourselves in a position where now we kept seeking inclusion. So everyone that came post 1960s into success, whether that's Bill Cosby, whether that was O.J. Simpson, or whether that was Oprah Winfrey, they felt like they joined the high mob club. Mm-hmm. And they're like, they would get in and then they wouldn't really help anyone else.
Well, it's this fear of, like, I guess, losing it all.
Yeah, there wouldn't be enough light for you.
Yeah. And I think that's the issue with, like, especially...
And that's the issue with current day, I would say, culture.
And community. For our community, it's very...
For Western society, people feel there's not enough light. And even in African-American community, there's hardly any unity anymore.
That's what I mean. Like, the unity, when we look at different cultures, I look at even Chinese culture, their unity might not be in entertainment, but geez, like, these people can do business like crazy.
They mobilize, they support their businesses, they go into their communities.
They'll help a cousin will help another cousin, a cousin will help another cousin, a cousin will help an auntie will help a sister, their sister will help a brother. That's unity. And even as far as sometimes it's not, they might do family, and that's fine. That they've got their thing. And then in Jewish culture, it's as long as you're part of this world, this religion.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're not an uncle or an auntie, you're one of us. The issue I always had as a kid is with African American culture, whatever you want to call it. Never, ever is there. There's always arguing, and I think it always stems from these issues with the slave trade and dividing our people.
Number one, we gainfully employ African Americans in front of and behind the camera. You got to cover yourselves, people. Very important. I'm talking, I need a black grip, a black gaffer, a black PA. Have them there. Number two, let the audience decide. Three, who put these critics in charge anyway, right?
Right.
These so-called cultural police. Four, who determines what is black?
Yeah, what is black?
Yes, okay? Sleep and Eat and Mantan are lazy and unemployed, but we are certainly not saying anything about the entire African-American community. They're slackers.
Slackers.
I took a couple of years after graduate school and walked around the European countryside. It's not the biggest deal in the world.
Kooky Kanye West. What are you talking about, DEFCON 1? DEFCON 2. See, Jews, we know about DEFCON 3, DEFCON 4. You're not doing DEFCON anything. With the Jews, we know about that. DEFCON 5, 6 million. We know all about that. You're working on the design for the new Yeezy Jewish space lasers. You're on some Marjorie Taylor Greene, Charlottesville. The Jews will not replace us. I defended you. Prick, you dusty prick. You look dusty. That's never going to be fashionably acceptable. Get the dust out of your beard. Take a shower, okay? I don't care what you're on or what you're not on. Take a shower. I was there. I defended you when Pistol Pete Davidson was sugar dicking your wife. But this is unacceptable, okay? You creep, you. And you're not going to be president. I know you think you're going to manifest things. You're never. I'm going to be the one to tell you to break the heart of your dream. You're never going to be president, you prick, you.
You guys are right. Jumanati is real. Jumanati is really real. I don't know how the code got cracked. I don't know who gave up the passwords, the codes. Who gave up the...
Yeah, it's been European colonization. Africans have been exploited by multiple parts of Europe for so long that there's always a fear of us that we feel like something is a scam.
Yeah.
We feel like someone's trying to take advantage of us if someone of our own culture says, hey, let me help you. And honestly, in America, when they would see too many Africans in one group, they would call it mob activity. And so they would disperse Africans from walking together. The police would disperse you from walking together in groups because it was deemed mob activity. And so because of that, I think a lot of Africans in general,
subconsciously,
when we see each other, we acknowledge that we're both the same, but we kind of don't know whether we're allowed to speak to each other.
Yeah,
it's this unspoken fear. I've dealt with that. I've seen that out on.
It happens.
Yeah,
and then
I'll be out on Queen Street, and another African will see me. We're in New Zealand. Sorry, guys, saying Queen Street.
Yeah.
But in Auckland Central, there's an area called Queen Street, and there'll be another African that's passing by. they'll see me and I'll see them, and they know we're the only two people on the street this color.
The other thing I can add
is there's a bit of hesitation on whether we should say hi or not say hi.
I was going to add as well, for our community, our people, we are the most easy to find. I've nearly forgot to say that. It is. Like, if you, with all due respect, a group of Jewish people, I wouldn't know. I want to know if they're congregating somewhere, unless they wore a, I don't know the correct term.
Yeah.
It's like a headpiece at the back.
Yarmulke?
Yarmulke? Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. If they took that off and they all huddled together, I don't care if there's 50 of them. I would have just been like, there's a group of random white people. The same way if a bunch of Swedish people hung out on the street together, I wouldn't know. I'd be like, blonde people all hanging out. The same way with a lot of groups. If they were all hanging out together, I don't know. And you have to remember, again, history plays a part. A lot of Asian, Chinese, or I say in that area, they usually do hang out together. So it's not crazy. It's not wacky for them. For over 400 years of us being in like those situations where we couldn't congregate or we couldn't be together in a group because it was criminal,
because it was criminal activity, or we were being enslaved.
So that is so deeper than it's so deep that every other group could do that it's not shocking. It's not weird, it's not crazy, and again, it's easy to hide. If somehow the world flipped and Jewish people did need to hide, it would be a lot easier than if people of color needed to hide. Like, be honest, like, I'm hiding in a group of white people, you're obviously going to be like, don't worry, officer, I can see there's a person of color, we can stop him. But if you somehow, your religion doesn't show on your face. I can't be like, yep, there's a Presbyterian right there, sir. We're looking for Presbyterian. Are you? Unless you come out and tell me, most people would not know what features to look for. That's the key thing.
It depends on how well traveled you are.
I was just about to say.
It depends on, or what you've been exposed to. So, like in my case, I'm very easy able to spot when someone's of Jewish descent. It's just certain features, nose, sometimes it's eye shape. So, and sometimes it's a bit of nose and hair color. You know, it might have a little bit of a rustic sort of like red, like sort of gingery type color in the hair and in the beard and little curls. And so some of these little things I can spot, but I can only spot it because I've been exposed to it.
I was about to say, it's not in every...
being in New York and LA. And then there's some Jewish people that they don't like to acknowledge they're Jewish because of this fear that is sort of like goes back to the Holocaust, with, the atrocities that was committed during the Holocaust. But unfortunately, what Kanye and some other people were saying regarding the Jewish community and this fear that they live under is that it's almost self-imposed. The Jewish community sort of almost have like a self-imposed like fear complex, but people associate that with the fact that they only do business with their kind. And if you only do business with your kind and you kind of disregard trying to empower other people, then it's almost like it's a superiority complex. And if you walk around feeling like you're better than someone else, you're going to be in fear all the fucking time. Excuse my language. But same with me. If I walk around and I think I'm better than the next man or than Benda and other people, and I just walk around with my nose up in the air, then I'm going to be a little paranoid because I've self-imposed myself into thinking other people are beneath me.
It's actually proving the exact point that I made. So many actors been bullied behind the scenes. So you even got people like Ari Emanuel asking people to not do business with me. That's how this town has been running for so long. They'll mute you. They'll try to mute you at all costs.
We can't cancel Kanye. We can't cancel man.
What'd you say?
They can't cancel somebody.
I mean, you definitely. Look at that. Even
God's
before,
on your side, man.
Even God is on all our side. God is alive.
Amen.
So even
He's
though
the master controller, we're on remote control.
Exactly, we're vessels.
Yep, exactly.
Amen. So y'all still had a
platform.
This is the thing. They never expected someone to have the platform. It's not that anyone's afraid. They're afraid of us not being afraid anymore. And we're not afraid anymore. They can't use all the tactics. I'm talking about my life was threatened to have a political opinion. All right, so it says, think about it, that sounds like the type wording that's in the contracts, right?
Indeed.
Okay, it says, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions.
But isn't that what you said? That Jews run everything?
Yeah, but that actually is considered to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
So I didn't realize that it was anti-Semitic to say, hey, you know, I have a Jewish attorney, I have a Jewish record label, I have a Jewish contractor, I have a
Do you
Jewish...
regret your statements? Or the statements you think you should be walking back? I mean, considering...
What do you mean walking back?
Well, you know, backing up off of them. I mean, the thing is, you've lost a lot of endorsements. People are dropping you. You're getting, you know, vilified. You know, I mean, you might think you're right, but I think, you know, there's a whole world out there that's condemning you for what you said.
Okay, so this right here is a chart of Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, ABC News, CBS News, Columbia Pictures, Warner Brothers, ESPN Sports, Fox News, Washington Post, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MTV Music Television, Nickelodeon, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Comedy Central, NBC Entertainment, Google, what else do we have? Disney, ABC Kids and Family, YouTube, Los Angeles Times, Discovery Network, Paramount Pictures, Facebook, Huffington Post, Yahoo, Marvel, Hulu, Cosmopolitan, Time, Touchstone, Associated Press, Pixar, Miramax, HBO, New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks Animation. Now, the thing is, I skipped over maybe about 5 of them because it was just unclear on this list. The red are the executives that are Jewish at these companies.
Do you think they stuck together when they heard what you said? Was that what happened?
Well, what I said is...
And to add to that...
These are underlings.
And to add to that paranoia, one of the things that the GOAT, Mr. Kanye, did, he did throw up a spreadsheet on, I'd say, big execs.
Yeah.
We go from presidents, chairman, executives, CEOs of, we're talking DreamWorks, ABC, all these big media companies, and I noticed majority of them are Jewish.
Yeah, I never realized it as much until I was watching just certain programs. I watch HBO, like you pointed out, you know, Entourage.
Yeah,
and you watch certain shows, and they'll sprinkle in little Jewish elements, you know, or even watching Superbad and watching the kids in that film. I noticed that they all had, you know, they had a Jewish nose and very curly hair, some of the kids that were in that film and whatnot.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, Jonah Hill. Just the features. So all those kids in that film. Michael Cera. Yeah, they're all Jewish. You know, so I started to notice these little patterns of, you know, certain actors, certain entertainers, certain comedians always having a good go. They're well taken care of. Like Adam Sandler, for example.
He's done like a billion movies.
He's done a billion movies to a point where some people were just sort of like, if it had been anybody else, their career would be dead. But they're like, this guy, people look out for him, you know. And he's done some great projects lately.
Yeah, he's done good movies.
Yeah,
but there was one point where he was doing movies, and I was like, what? Like, how are they releasing this stuff?
Yeah, it was just like he didn't.
He played a lady or something. He played his own sister.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was. I just watched the trailer and I thought it was bad.
Yeah, that was the lead up to. That was when Netflix had just started, like, really getting its stride, and they started to make original content and movies. He started getting a bunch of Netflix films, and people were just sort of like, why? How is he still working? Like,
oh, it's terrible.
You know.
And he stopped it he paused. Yeah. And then came back and realized. Yeah. Obviously, I can skate on by because I'm looked after, but I have to. Yeah. I actually have to create. Yeah. Probably some good stuff.
Yeah. Well, he came back with Uncut Gems, which that was a film.
That was actually
that was a film that was in development, I think, for like 20-something years. Whoa. And he did a hell of a performance. There were a few actors that were lined up for that role. And the film had been sitting dormant, and it was something that Sandler was working towards, actually trying to have it fully developed and him take the role. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so there's certain Yeah, so unless you've been exposed to certain communities, you may not know who, how, and how they work.
Yeah, because like you said, they're hidden.
Yeah, and there's Jews of different diaspora that are all over the world. There's Jews that are in Ethiopia. There's Sephardic Jews, which are also Palestinians. So they're Jewish. Those are Jewish people as well. Unfortunately, there's been this historical battle between Jews and Palestinians, but they're cousins, which makes the whole fight silly at the end of the day. And to be honest, they look at the land as sacred. I look at it as it's just grass. You know, it's like, even where we live here in New Zealand, it's grass. Africa is just grass, and Africa feeds the world. Africa feeds the world.
I was gonna say,
if anybody wants to fight over a country, we should be fighting over Africa.
Well, we don't even need it because people have already taken over it.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still so abundantly rich in resources that France won't leave, Belgium won't back out, Britain won't back out. We've got all these countries inside of our country. I mean, imagine in Europe, if Europe, for example, was colonized by Africa, and everyone's speaking Swahili in one place, and then they're speaking Zimbabwean and another place, and then another place they're speaking Zulu, you know? So that's what it's like for us when we hear Africans speaking French, we hear Africans speaking Portuguese in Tanzania, it's
it depends what country took you over. I think where I'm originally from, it was started off with French. So our languages was French and Rwandan.
Yeah, so he's of Rwandan descent. And so the French came there and just exploited those people. So you would understand how it feels for us. And thankfully, we even still have a voice to even speak about it. Like people in South America that are, indigenous people, they've been killed off so much to the point they can't complain about the Spaniards and what they did there. They're sort of like doing the best that they can to try to regroup and salvage what they have. If they're living in the mountains or something like in Brazil, for example, there's certain native people that are still fighting for their rights, but they got pushed into the mountains,
Again, it's just one of those things, like it's divide and conquer, really. So
so
see, one of the oldest tricks,
and that's what African Americans see. That's what's going on, and that's what's going on a global scale right now with media, film, TV, and so the way it's being viewed for some people is that the world is being put in a very divisive space where everyone's being divided by gender, race, political parties, vaccinated, unvaccinated. And all this is doing is creating businesses for people that are already in power that can exploit these situations, whether that's a film production company, whether that's a movie where they want to gender swap, race swap things. It keeps the general public fighting, and then it helps their political brothers to pass the policies that they want to pass.
Why would they give us the detonator to our own bomb?
Tonight, you're all going to be a part of a social experiment.
Through the magic of diesel fuel and ammonium nitrate,
I'm ready right now to blow you all sky high.
Liberty, come in, over. It's dead.
Anyone attempts to get off their boat, you all die.
I'm zeroing in.
Each of you has a remote. Blow up the other boat. At midnight, I blow you all up. If, however, one of you presses the button, I'll let that boat live. So, who's it gonna be? Harvey Dent's most wanted scumbag collection, or the sweet and innocent civilians? You choose. Oh, and you might want to decide quickly, because the people on the other boat may not be quite so noble.
Stay back. Well, now, who are you to decide? We ought to talk this over at least.
We don't all have to die. Those men had their chance.
We are not going to talk about this.
Why aren't we talking about it?
They're talking over the same exact thing on the other boat.
Let's put it to a vote.
No one wants to get their hands dirty. Fine. I'll do it. Those men on that boat, they made their choices. They chose to murder and steal. It doesn't make any sense for us to have to die too.
Give it to me, and I'll do what you should have did 10 minutes ago.
So everyone's working in cahoots with each other. And so Kanye feels like that. He feels like as artists in arts, we're already being exploited on this level. He's like, I'm not going to expose what's going on a political level. Other people can articulate that.
But can you at least let us own some shit?
But can you at least, you know, it's if you think something's going to go on forever, I'm sorry to tell you, change is the only thing guaranteed in life. Things will change, but you cannot keep trying to hide in control and puppeteering things from behind the scenes and then try to hide in language. Language is abused in a massive way today, whether that's someone calling you a misogynist
or racist
for having a preference that, you know, your lady maybe takes care of her health and she's not overweight, or that, you know, you don't want a lady that wants to use you for food, you know, be a foodie. So these words are abused where they use misogyny as a blanket statement all across the board just to shut down any argument. Well, men, we don't call women misandrous for wanting us to self-improve, for us to have a good finances, good credit, good shape, physical shape, maybe even be 6 foot tall like me and Benda, you know? So we don't call that misandry, and we don't use it as a blanket statement across the board. And yeah, or even someone saying that someone is fat shaming because, you know, they might be a bit overweight and it's affecting their health. No, we're just telling you truth. You know, so when you call somebody phobic for not wanting to date someone trans or sleep with someone trans, or you call someone anti-Semitic because they're asking you to do better business. You know, no one is above self-improving. And that's the reality of it. It doesn't matter what culture, what race, what religion you are. Everyone has to self-improve, you know? So if you think something's going to stay in one place, change is inevitable. And it is time for everyone to do better and be more accountable. And I think that's the scary part of why they're trying to use disinformation right now in traditional media, is because it's holding people accountable for the things that they can improve on. And instead of improving on their communications and having dialogue and questions that people can ask each other, because that's how societies grow. Societies grow from exchanging of dialogue and personal development.
BLM took a black person, showed his death on camera because, okay, there are examples of us being killed and being killed on camera. But if it was spread on camera, it was done on purpose by the media, because 14, 20 kids get killed in Chicago every week, and it's not spread that much. They, like you said, singled out a person, directed everything on that person, right, as the martyr, and raised the people that hadn't had any. We didn't have our 40 acres and a mule. We didn't have, you know, like a lot of things, right? Like that black people have not ever been given. So once we're given just a little bit, like your life matters, right? Then we literally like, oh, okay, now we're being heard. The idea of anti-Semitism and the closeness of the Holocaust is used by certain individuals in media to not take accountability for the bad things that are happening.
You give me your perspective on what you learned, I give you my perspective, and then we can meet in the middle and go, wow, okay, maybe we can draw a parallel in the theory there, and now this can help other people along the lines. They're trying to stop social discourse to get back to controlling the narrative. Now that comes from traditional media. Kanye just exposed who majorly controls traditional media. That's frightening because that's showing there's a huge incentive to suppress people from being able to actually come together, which feels very divisive. And that's a bad way to try to stay in some authority or some sort of power, you know? And I think that's why there's a deep fear with YouTubers.
Well, and also like him coming out and hitting people with that is he proved people right.
Yeah.
He's being banned on everything. So we all know, if you don't know.
You literally showed your hand.
Yeah,
You showed your hand. You're going, no, we don't control everything. And then you're going, oh no, cancel all his deals. Cancel all his deals. Yeah. His tours, cut that off. And then all these executives are coming out from different communities, whether that's film and TV, acting, movies, music, and they're all going, cancel him. And we can see the surnames. We see Steinberg, we see Weinstein, see Epstein. We see all these different names coming out, you know, that of Jewish origin, and then you're saying you don't control anything.
Clip, man, let's go.
Hopefully this is my last statement on Kanye and anti-Semitism, but I feel like it won't be. But this is what I wrote. Jews are 2.4% of the population, but 35% of the Forbes 400. African Americans are 13.6% of the population, but only 0.5% of the Forbes 400. Instead of listening to the wealthiest and most outspoken black man in the media about the issues he has with potentially racist and stultifying Jews in the industry, which is what going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people translates to in Ebonics, he is completely excoriated. 92% of U.S. Jews identify as white. Israel is known to suffer from intense racial discrimination against its Arab, Mizrahi, and Ethiopian communities. To destroy the life of a black man who says he's going to speak up about the oppression African Americans face from white capitalist owners is insanely racist and problematic. I wish Abraham Joshua Heschel was alive today to deal with this. What I think he would do is meet with Kanye and allow him to air his grievances and acknowledge the problematic power imbalance between Jews and African Americans in media and American society. He would encourage Jews and their allies to take what Kanye says to heart and to see this as a renewed call to anti-racism in all of our society, to support African Americans in their quest to have a seat at the table, and for Jewish people to help African Americans get there. Remember, Jewish Americans have an average net worth of $150,890, and African Americans have an average net worth of $24,000. Beating on Kanye for talking about that only reveals your racism. Have a nice day.
100%.
You're literally showing your hand, and you're doing it in real time, thinking people can't see you. Maybe they couldn't 10 years ago, but we can today.
Oh, because
things change.
Everything on social media, it pops up. 1 minute he's banned on Instagram, then he gets banned off this, and then he's banned on Twitter. Now he's back on, which I'm super excited
Shouts
about.
to Elon Musk. Shouts to Elon.
The man's a top
We
G.
applaud you, bro. Top G, legend.
And he brought back Trump.
We need these voices.
So like,
I want to know if someone's racist. If they are racist, I want to know.
I want to know. I don't mind.
I don't like covert racists. Because then that sucks.
That's dangerous.
Someone, sorry, we're not hiring right now, and then they wait till you walk up to them.
Yeah,
we don't like.
I would rather just someone be like, we don't hire people with your skin color. I'd be like, cool, thanks for telling me. I don't want to work here.
Yeah.
So I think also like, and then he gets kicked out of a bank that is predominantly Jewish.
Jewish owned. Yeah.
So
and they finance whose money were they managing? Jeffrey Epstein's.
So you
manage Jeffrey Epstein's money, but Kanye.
But you can't kick out.
Kanye's asking for better business, and you cancel him because he just says the name of the community.
Because he's anti-Semitic, and because Jeffrey Epstein wasn't, it's okay. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know where I can draw the line. I can go kidnap a bunch of children, do some dodgy shit.
Yeah.
But if I say anything like remotely that you may not like, that's how I get kicked out of your bank. And it's not the only bank. There's lots of bank, whether it's Goldman and Sachs or what was JP and Morgan. There's many banks. So
even the name Goldman,
is
Jewish.
Yeah. If you don't know it, 100%.
You know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you used to be able to hide in plain sight, but we're articulate now, and I think that's one of the biggest fears about the internet in general. The reason why they're trying to censor the internet is because we have too much information at this point.
There's way too much info.
I mean, The prime minister here, the prime minister in Canada, they came together and was like, we have an agreement with Twitter that we're going to manage disinformation, and we're going to set up an algorithm that we can not only use on Twitter, but we're going to use it on every social media platform.
Control everyone. And of course, New Zealand was a test bed for this. I mean, New Zealand and Australia. A lot of people, similarities here, but we see a lot of Australian viewers too. And there's a lot of similarities, of course. But these two were like Petri dish test beds for COVID lockdowns and government control. And
yes, we're going to talk about that in a second, actually, because the question remains, why do this? Is it just to continue disenfranchising people and taking away what they have? Well, it does sure seem like it. The two gentlemen we just played you, they come from a group called Groundswell New Zealand, and they claim that the government is actually using climate change to take farmers' land. Here's a letter that one farmer received in July telling them that the state is going to take their land because it has use case interest for them, basically. They're going to, pay them what they think is commensurate. And they say that 1,500 such landowners have received letters like this. When addressing the United Nations recently, she said that online speech is a weapon and should be regulated like a weapon by all politicians. Listen.
After all, the face of war has changed. And with that, the weapons used. The tools used to challenge the statehood of others are hidden and more complex. Traditional combat, espionage, and the threat of nuclear weapons are now accompanied by cyber attacks, prolific disinformation, and manipulation of whole communities and societies. Now, as leaders, we have never treated the weapons of old in the same way as those that have emerged. And that's understandable. After all, a bullet takes a life. A bomb takes out a whole village. A lie online or from a podium does not. But what if that lie, told repeatedly and across many platforms, prompts, inspires, or motivates others to take up arms, to threaten the security of others, to turn a blind eye to atrocities, or worse, to become complicit in them? What then? This is no longer a hypothetical. The weapons of war have changed. They are upon us and require the same level of action and activity that we put into the weapons of old.
My daughter was homesick today, and I was listening to this on headphones while I was sitting next to her, and I was like, no, girl, no. After I heard that, my daughter's like, what are you watching? This is what I was watching.
And that's why on pandemic preparedness, we support efforts to develop a new global health legal instrument, strengthened international health regulations, and a strong and empowered World Health Organization.
Nope. No, I don't like any of those words.
So we need to make the World Health
Global legal mandates.
Yeah, this is what we've been talking about here on the show, guys. This is all part of this new world order, this unipolar world order. And when you hear that, when Vladimir Putin gets up and says, no, the only way forward is a multipolar order, sovereign states that care for their own people, right? Regardless of what you think about Putin, like that pisses them off, because this idea of a unipolar world government health organization that's going to supersede governments to tell them to lock down, to put their digital currency in the hands of this world. That's exactly what they want, guys. The World Health Organization wants to be able to have total control, and the United States went along with it. Canada went along with it. New Zealand's going along with it. Thank God Brazil and Africa, an African nation, stood up and said, no.
Do you know how North Korea became how it is today? When Kim Il-sung came, he made one promise to North Korean people. I'm going to feed you rice and meat stew each meal. And I'm going to get rid of all the inequality. If I do that, why don't you give me all your land and all your rights? We wanted no inequality, so we gave our land, our rights to this one guy. He took everything from us. So whenever in America I came, and people in Manhattan living in the best city in the world telling me passionately how America is so bad. So I asked them, so what is it so bad about America that you hate so much? And they say, you know what? We have inequality in this country. That's an amazing thing that you can rise to compared to other people. The enemy is of poverty, not inequality.
They want to try it first on Twitter and then move on. And I watched the interview, and it was funny hearing her say, yeah, well, we'll start off with Twitter and eventually move on to everything else.
We'll set up infrastructure for that, and then we can move this across the board.
Oh, yeah.
And then she had a meeting at the World Economic Forum, and she's like, oh yeah, by the way, we can we want other countries to join. We actually have the technology already to censor the internet for disinformation, and we just need everyone to join the right side, be on the right team.
And then who polices it? You gotta ask yourself,
who polices the police at the end of
the day? Who's the one who gets to pick what's disinformation? Because let's just say I'm the person.
Yeah. Well,
if I'm the person, then fuck. All right, I'll just say what I want.
But who's been controlling disinformation lately?
Well, usually I would say it's the like on the media or like social media.
Social media.
On social. Well, I don't.
You've seen these fact checker ones.
I don't know who the fact checkers are. I don't know who the hell they are.
But who runs the fact checking programs? Do you know?
I wouldn't have a clue.
It's Bill Gates.
New documents reveal that the Gates Foundation has given millions of dollars to hundreds of media outlets, investigative journalism centers, journalism schools, and media projects, totaling more than $300 million. According to an investigation by Mint Press News, the grants are usually directed towards issues important to the Gates Foundation.
$3.6 million was given to CNN for reporting on gender equality with a particular focus on least developed countries.
Bill Gates is buying up farmland everywhere. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has invested $600 million in this picnic food distribution centers. It's these food distribution centers that you order online with an app. You don't go to the store, and then the electric vehicles deliver this food to your home. So it sort of knocks out the grocery store. So basically, people like Bill Gates are working to take complete control over food supply. But they got to take out these farmers.
New Zealander farmers are up in arms protesting against new laws. But are they climate change deniers or Great Reset resistors? It appears that the agenda of the New Zealand government aligns nicely with unelected globalist bodies. Perhaps because real change will be at the odds of their sponsors. For example, Microsoft. Oh, Microsoft. Who is it that used to run Microsoft? I've heard his name somewhere. Microsoft is famous for its questionable work practices. In environmental terms, the company makes the bold statement of intent to be carbon neutral by 2025. But its collaboration with major extractors throws this usefulness of this label into doubt. In Texas, for example, Microsoft helps extract more than 50,000 barrels of oil per day from the Permian Basin. You, farmers, cut down on your emissions. We, though, we're sponsored by Microsoft. Oi, carry on extracting 50,000 barrels of oil a day, or at least assisting in that process through technological support.
Bill Gates is the fact checker behind these things.
He's not the fact checker. He runs the fact checking organizations.
Of course he does. Well, there you go.
Guess who's invested in COVID-19 vaccines and viral technology? Who keeps warning us about new viruses that are going to appear in the future? Bill Gates. You know, he spoke about COVID well in advance before it occurred. Dr. Anthony Fauci, unfortunately, he was also involved in the HIV vaccine and AIDS virus in the 1980s. And so he got exposed for that as well, too. And a lot of people aren't aware that he was very much a figurehead behind the HIV virus vaccine. And a lot of people died from that vaccine that they gave out well early in advance. I have an uncle who's HIV positive in New York. So I know a bit about the story behind Dr. Fauci and his involvement. So when I saw this guy again for this virus, I just... Anytime there's division being peddled, people, this is a very stern warning. Anytime you see division being peddled in the media, if that's around politics, people, a particular ethnic group, they're running a social op.
Given the long incubation period of this disease, we may be starting to see, as we're seeing virtually as the months go by, other groups that can be involved, and seeing it in children is really quite disturbing.
When you say other close contact, give me some examples.
Well, for example, if the close contact of a child is a household contact, perhaps there will be a certain number of cases of individual who are just living with and in close contact with someone with AIDS or at risk of AIDS who does not necessarily have to have intimate sexual contact or share a needle, but just the ordinary close contact that one sees in normal interpersonal relationships. Now, that may be far-fetched in the sense that that there have been no cases recognized as yet in which individuals have had merely casual contact, close albeit.
Well, of course, we now know that the infant contracted the virus through their mother's womb, but the damage had been done. Public panic had intensified, and people were fearing they could get AIDS from sharing a toilet seat or even from shaking hands. Despite the science, Dr. Fauci declined to conduct a clinical trial. Doctors and advocates continued to push for its use, and finally, a couple years later, it was adopted, after thousands of patients had already died. As Fauci and the NIH focused on vaccines and AZT for the treatment of AIDS, hundreds of drugs went unstudied. They should be using our tax dollars to study inexpensive treatments that Big Pharma has zero interest in studying because they can't make billions off of them.
In the Dark Knight movie with the Joker, the Joker did a social experiment on people, and it was around the boats. And I don't know if you've seen the film. Don't want to spoil it for you. But towards the end of the film, he does a social experiment about 2 bombs being on 2 different boats. And what he wanted to do was test the citizens of Gotham to see who would turn on each other. That's what's going on in society today. Anytime you see division being peddled, whether that's around vaccines, because when you promote division, the general public will police each other.
Yeah.
And that's how slave plantations in America went on for 400 years. They separated house slaves, which are slaves that had privilege that worked in the house. Some of these house slaves were in the house because they were raped and they had children of the slave owner. And so because of them having a more mulatto mixed skin tone, they gave them more privilege and put them in the house. And they kept the field slaves, the darker ones, out in the field working with the sun beating down on them. And so out of that, it made Africans police each other. So they set up a system for us to even micromanage each other while we're being human trafficked. So
because there's too many, there's more of you than there is the oppressor. So it's easier to just get the general public.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of us.
In light of seeing that a rapper from Migos died, I just wanted to go ahead and make a video about something I have a unique experience in. So I directed a bunch of rappers, people like Gucci Mane, Snoop Dogg, Lil Yachty, the list goes on and on and on, okay? I learned a lot of things, and I have left the industry largely over my political beliefs, but there is something I want to impart to people to hopefully, make some sort of change happen. So I have a challenge to rappers, and I know some of you still follow me. I know a bunch of the celebrity blogs still follow me from trying to get news from music videos and things like that. So here's the truth. The truth is this: a bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives. The record executives that push for them to continue to make songs and create a culture that is obsessed with death, drugs, and sex. Period. The industry is obsessed with it, but those record executives, they're not dying because they don't push this culture on their own people, but they're encouraging you to push it on yours, and they're paying you handsomely to do it. The reality is, I know a lot of you. A lot of you are good people, you're family guys. You're not the image that you put out there to the world. Why? Why don't you be the example? Stand up. I challenge you. Be the example. Make music about the culture you want to see. Don't just get online today and talk about how, whenever a rapper makes it, his own people take him down. Don't just make those videos. Don't be sad. Don't rest in peace. None of that stuff. Be the change you want to see. Inspire it in your community. Reach out to other rappers and say, we have to stop. We're being used. You've been used for a long time. You know, they create this paradigm to make you believe that you're so important and your celebrity status is worth so much, but in truth, you're a pawn in their game and you always have been. The government has wanted to hold down communities of people in different ways through different methods for a very long time. Their method in the Black community has been to use entertainment to create a culture obsessed with death, drugs, sex, and money, so that they could create a false paradigm of what happiness and what success really was. And in doing so, they created a world that also made people more dependent on government, and as a result, gave themselves more power. The record executives that push you to do this, to go and continue to profit off the backs of your work, they're in cahoots with the elite. They're in cahoots with the government. They want you to think you're important, but in truth, you're just doing their dirty work for them, so stop. They've empowered you in ways that are real. You have an audience, you have platforms, you have the ability to make change. So go against the grain together. They're more afraid of you all together standing up and creating a new culture that's built around family, faith, freedom, doing the right thing, valuing life, than they are of anything else. So I challenge you, use your power to do the right things. If you continue to do the same thing you've done, more rappers like this are going to die. How many have to die before you change the culture? And let me tell you something else. There's a reason the record labels pay us more to do rap videos. They don't tell you that, do they? Do they tell you that they pay us more to do your videos? Because they do. They do it because they know it's more dangerous. They do it because they know it's more difficult. And they do it because, frankly, there's a lot of money laundering involved. Those labels wash a bunch of money through. We don't do it, but we know the labels are doing it 100%. Okay, they're then taking the money off the top end and you see on your royalty check, oh, they spent $150,000 on this video. Did they? Because we didn't see $150,000. Okay, so where did the money go? And to who? Their friend's company? A lot of times that's the case. Same thing with insurance companies. They charge us more to insure your videos. And it's because they know the culture that's been created. They know that the only possibility of a music video being shot up is on a rap video. And that's the truth. So change the culture. You have the power. Your people deserve it.
And
to do the work.
And handed us Bibles and gave us biblical Hebrew names that are, you know, traditionally Jewish. Called us John, David, Matthew, you know?
James.
So, James.
LeBron James.
You know, even in the case of my son, like someone tried to get me to name my son like a European name, and I was like, you don't see European people going naming their kids African names, you know, or you know, or
T'Challa. There's a T'Challa here,
or Islamic name. So I was just like, I'm not gonna give my son an English name or something like that. We gave him something more unique because he's a cultural hybrid.
I always said I would never name my future children something like Andrew or because at the end of the day, like,
sorry, Andrew Tate, you the homie.
Yeah.
You the homie, top G.
Pro-Islam. Haram. We need the will of God. We need Allah. Listen, I'm ready for the asteroid. I've had enough. Same. No, I am so ready.
I have multiple boyfriends, but I'm still single, so life is good.
Haram.
I think there's a whole bunch of men in the world who understands my value, and if men grow up to be like me, you're gonna have a whole bunch of people with no criminal record, dedicated athletes, who protect and provide for the people close to them, are fantastic for the economy, and I'm certainly not the worst influence out here, peers. You have Lil Nas twerking on the devil on music videos, which our children are digesting. You have drill artists singing about stabbing people to death in the middle of a knife crime epidemic. You have rabid psychopaths on whether the right or the left announcing violence on the other side. You have all these insanities in the world. And because I sit here and say, perhaps, now you've laid it out and it offended you, I understand.
I didn't say it offended me.
Okay, cool.
I just read you the things.
You read things that you said they could be offensive and some people are offended.
Well, some people definitely were offended.
Absolutely. That's fine.
And honestly, I think some of the things you said were genuinely offensive and misogynist.
Lil Nas X is this gay rapper who brought out a video and rap song called Call Me By Your Name that is kind of a tribute to Satan, and also brought out these Satan sneakers. The Conservatives immediately said, oh, this is a terrible, and it's a terrible thing that he's selling these sneakers. Here was Lil Nas's response to that. He says, as a gay person, he says, I spent my entire teenage years hating myself because of this crap you all preached. In other words, people told him he would go to hell because I was gay. He says, so I hope you are mad and stay mad and feel the same anger you teach us to have towards ourselves. And this is a perfect example of Clavinist psychology that I've been talking about. This idea that you rebel against the oppressive people because they fail to represent God. But if you don't have a right idea of God, you can't then transfer your devotion to God. You then rebel against creation itself. And that, I think, is what Lil Nas X has done.
A friend of mine who plays drums for a very, 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 very well-known artist was on the set of a Lil Nas X video or whatever it was a while ago. In between takes, he said this kid was shriveling up in the corner. He went over to him and he was like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And he was like, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't want to do this anymore. Next thing you know, he saw the label people hovering over him, telling him, you better gay that shit up more. Right after that, my friend took his entire band and left the set. He said, we're not doing this. They tried blacklisting him. He still plays for that big main artist, but he lost a lot of clients. And they tried to destroy his life because he took his band off.
Lil Nas, you may think it's artistic, you may think it's cool, but twerking on the devil is nothing other than degenerate. And I know when you're young, you may think that those kind of things are edgy, that it's important that we break social stereotypes. It's actually disgusting, and there's no need to insult Christianity like that, and there's also no need to worship the devil like that. And what's happened is this: he didn't come up with this idea. Someone above him came up with this idea. Some artistic producer, some record producer, someone came to him and said, this is going to be cool. This is going to break the internet. My advice to you, Lil Nas X, is that you're going to have a legacy because you're a famous person. You live in a very special life. Don't let them abuse you because they're going to convince you that it's artistic or it's funny. It's not funny. There's nothing cool about that. And that's what I'm saying. That kind of content's genuinely dangerous.
I just never try to sit alone and just be like, oh, everybody hates me.
That's mental health, man. That's mental health going down right now. You're sick, boy. Boy, you're sick. You need help.
Do you feel the pressure of, I see it all the time, parents will be like, you have a responsibility because kids are watching. You hear that Cardi B had that same problem and Nicki had that same problem. Do you feel that same way, raise your own kids?
I feel like I used to, but now it's just fuck your kids. Not fuck your kids. That's exactly what you just said.
How was it in the music industry? That whole conversation about the gatekeepers real, the rituals, things people got to do, blood sacrifice thing. I don't know if you got into all that, but can you kind of go there, being as though you were in the belly of the beast in the music industry?
I only can say my truth, and I've had motherfuckers come at me on some weirdo shit. On some gay shit. I've had motherfuckers come at me on some, oh, you should do this type shit. And I was like, what? Man, why the fuck would I do that? That made no sense. I view that as being inhuman. I view that as, I would never do that. I'm at a point right now in my life where there's a lot of shit I know that I want to tell people. It's a lot of things that I want to teach, but I'm afraid. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm scared because I got 4 grandchildren, and I got children that are in this world. I got people I care about. Good's up here and evil's outweighing it like a motherfucker. Evil is fucking winning right now. Evil is fucking winning right now, and music is part of that. Music fucking influences people, and I don't give a fuck what nobody say. A lot of people try to say, oh, it's not my responsibility to teach your children, or it's not what I say don't matter, you know what I'm saying? I say what the fuck I want to say, and blah, 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 blah. That's some bullshit. That's bullshit. What you say, especially if you're as popular as a Eminem or a 50 Cent or a Kendrick Lamar or a Coolio, a Ice Cube, if you're that fucking popular, then what you say has some bearing and some merit. And these children, people's children and grandchildren are fucking listening to what you have to say. And from my point of view, it's your responsibility to give them some of what they need. And that's how I feel about it.
I love Andrew Tate. I don't have
Exactly.
anything against the name. I just
Tate
meant
speech. And if you haven't watched our Tate interview or segment,
yes, watch
react, watch our Andrew Tate thing here.
Yes, that's a goodie. That's a goodie.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, no hate on the name.
Yeah.
I just think at the end of the day, why continue something that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years? Like the same names.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. You keep calling your kids Frank and what this and that. No, I'm going to name my kid something super new.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the position I want to go in. And
Yeah.
that's the position Kanye wants to go in. He wants something different. Whether it's Kanye, whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's someone else, they're sick and tired of having someone look after them. The same way Jay-Z started Tidal. He's sick and tired of asking for breadcrumbs from Spotify.
Yeah. But you do know Jay-Z's business partners are all Jewish.
Oh, of course they are. Well,
Yeah.
Jay-Z,
I have mixed feelings about.
I was gonna say the thing is,
I know, I get the moral.
Yeah,
I get
the moral is
he has a moral of the story.
The moral of the story is at least Jay-Z doesn't have to beg someone to give them like something. He might have a whole bunch of Jewish execs on his side, but at the end of the day,
Jay-Z's not the best example. But I get what he's saying.
Yeah, he's not the best example, but my example is at the end of the day.
He means Jay is trying to start some form of ownership.
Yeah.
But Jay makes concessions for a lot of things. Jay wanted to be included in the Italian community. He wanted to be a gangster at one point. And then he got called out pretty bad for some business deals he did around the Barclays Center and around the Nets, and it had to do with some of his business partners. So
I wouldn't have been so generous with Jay. It was more friendship for me and money for him. And I always felt that, but I ignored it a little.
You regret ignoring that?
I don't regret it. I wouldn't have let certain things happen because I didn't think they could happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would never do that. But he did things that I thought he would never do. The difference between Jay and Kanye, and I say it, Jay is about the money, period. And Kanye is about the art and the money. But it's the art. You know what I mean? Like Kanye is a real artist. Like Kanye is in different dimensions. Like, he really focuses on that fashion. I never saw Jay do that.
But yeah, I get what Benda's trying to say. He's trying to say ownership.
Well,
when I think of Jay, I think of Jay in the same concept that I look at those same African Americans that just got through in the entertainment industry, the ones that got let into the club. He's one of those people that got let into the club. And so, he might purport in his music about his causes for African American pain and some of these things, but I just feel like he hasn't necessarily lived by that. So
yeah, I don't know that much about. All I know is he's eating well.
See how strong pop culture is.
Yeah,
you see how strong it is about the images that you can control in people's minds on certain people, certain figures, and so that's what Kanye's talking about. As we have no control over our image, we have no control over what people see, how they depict us. Everywhere I go, where I travel, someone assumes I play basketball. They assume that I can rap. They assume that I might be a gang member. Sometimes it's to a detriment because then I can't date certain ethnic groups because they'll look at me and they'll assume off something they saw on TV that my people are a certain way. They behave a certain way.
Did you know, before Chappelle's show was at Comedy Central, I pitched that show to HBO. I told them what I wanted to do. Now, these are executives. All they have to do is say, yeah, we'll take it, or no, thank you, we won't. But they didn't say either of those things. They went too far. They said, literally, what do we need you for? That's what they told me, as they kicked me out of the office. What do we need you for? And here we are, all these years later, and they're streaming the very show that I was pitching to them. So I'm asking them, what do you need me for? People think I made a lot of money for Chappelle's show. When I left that show, I never got paid. They didn't have to pay me because I signed the contract. But is that right? I found out that these people were streaming my work and they never had to ask me or they never had to tell me. Perfectly legal because I signed the contract. But is that right? I didn't think so either. That's why I like working for Netflix. I like working for Netflix because when all those bad things happened to me, that company didn't even exist. And when I found out they were streaming Chappelle's show, I was furious. How could they not know? So you know what I did? I called them and I told them that this makes me feel bad. And do you want to know what they did? They agreed that they would take it off their platform just so I could feel better. That's why I fuck with Netflix, because they paid me my money, they do what they say they're gonna do, and they went above and beyond what you could expect from a businessman. They did something just because they thought that I might think that they were wrong. And I do. I think if you are fucking streaming that show, you're fencing stolen goods. They stole that from me. They just took it. And I'm not up here trying to tell you guys that I believe that Comedy Central gave me a raw deal just because I'm black. I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this fucking industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too bitches was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it fucks. And I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same monster.
So, you know, a lot of sexual harassment stuff in the news of late. And I couldn't help but notice a very disturbing pattern emerging, which is that many of the predators, not all, but many of them, are Jews.
When I quit the show, all my friends would say, well, fuck them, Dave. Why don't you just do Chappelle's show at another network? Yeah. And why doesn't a slave run from one plantation to another plantation? Because the master over there might be nicer. My God, man, I was trapped. You know what, tell you the truth? I've even thought about coming back and doing another Chappelle show. Well, but if I do, I can't call it Chappelle's show because my name and likeness is being used by them in perpetuity throughout the universe. It's in the contract.
You know, so this is what Kanye's talking about, is that we need to review contracts and we need more ownership over how we're portrayed. And we don't want someone else doing it for us. We don't want sloppy seconds of you doing a race swap for Little Mermaid. We don't need that. That's performative. And you're trying to make it sound like we've gained something out of it. But that money that Little Mermaid's having, that merch, we talked about it before. With Benda,
we talked about it, yeah.
That money is going right back into that
whoever the owner is,
that studio executive's pockets, which might be of Jewish descent. And so when Kanye says the word Jewish as a whole, what he means by that is because they work in groups of 5 for the most part, and they always look out for their community. It's hard to distinguish one from another, that he gets to be specific and talk about one specific person. It's a whole network of this is just how a business model that they have, how it is. You know, so do I think Kanye is anti-Semitic? No.
I talk about the chakras. Remember I talked about Rick Rubin? I talked about the 808?
The chakras is real.
Now, I'm gonna say some anti-Semitic shit. I'ma fuck your bitch. I'ma kill this nigga. 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 That's the real anti-Semitic shit that the Jewish people get paid off of.
I don't know what's this opioid thing, man.
Well, being a crackhead wasn't cool back then. Being a crackhead wasn't cool. Now they seem like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup and
it's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
So why sign an artist that would promote that?
Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. But I have to. I can't give up on people.
But I'm saying that's hypocritical, though. You're saying
it's opportunistic.
Yeah.
I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
Who's Dame Dash?
Old white men is running this rap shit. Corporate force is running this rap shit. Tall Israeli is running this rap shit. We poke out our asses for a chance to cash in. Cocaine is running this rap shit. Joe Yak and E-pills is running this rap shit. This rap shit. Quasi-homosexuals is running this rap shit. What, yo? We're running the world.
Rapper Young Thug will appear in court this morning. The rapper, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams Jr., was arrested Monday on a 56-count racketeering indictment.
28 defendants that operated within our community between the time period of 2012 and 2022. It is our allegation that they operated as a criminal street gang and commenced to do havoc in our community.
We have breaking news in the entertainment world. A member of the award-winning rap group Migos was shot and killed this morning in Houston, Texas. According to Variety, Takeoff, whose real name is Kershnik Kari Ball, was killed at a bowling alley.
Authorities say rapper Fetty Wap not only makes his money by entertaining, but by selling drugs too, and lots of it. Thursday night, FBI agents arrested the platinum artist, whose real name is William Jr. Maxwell II, at the Rolling Loud Music Festival here at Citi Field in Queens. Sources tell Pix 11 News the rapper was also dealing drugs from the parking lot at the festival.
Stop the show. He was one of the fans who climbed the stage at Astroworld begging for them to stop the show because of the people who were being crushed by the crowd.
It just felt like we was like literally like in fucking hell, bro. Like it felt like we was in a concert in hell. You couldn't breathe, you couldn't see. Like just imagine all the people they gonna find tonight who was in that crowd, who nobody could see, who nobody could hear, who passed out, and everybody was just trampling on top of them the whole fucking concert. Like,
I feel that, but why we gotta wait for the CD then?
Because don't you want it real good?
Yeah,
He been gave it to you like 2 years ago.
Yo, who's this?
Hold up. This is the Drink Champs, the #1 podcast in the business. And right now, we're talking to, hands down, the most important man, in my opinion, in the whole music game. He's a mogul. He's been doing this. He personally signed me and taught me how to be a man with money. Right now, we got Lyor Combs on the line. Let's make some noise! Yo, Lyor, I gotta big you up off top, man.
Well, I want to address the comment you made about mogul. I don't consider myself a mogul. Myself a servant. I prefer if you could replace mogul with humble servant.
My beef was with Lyor because I think he's a fake CEO and I think he's fronting on my culture, but he can't front on anybody else. And I'm calling him out publicly and I want him to stop trying to rape my culture, go make some money with some other people. They have people that their job is to create beef so that they can monetize it, but they don't let their culture feel it, but they make money from it and they can't make any money or get any respect in their culture. That's why they're in our culture. It is what it is. It's a perfect example of what they always do to us. They always try to, offer some paper bag of money or whatever it is, whatever selfish agenda, which is the test, and then have us divide so they can benefit and take the fight off of them and put the focus on them. Never had a beef with Jay, always with Lyor and his whole crew. He's the one that ruined Rockefeller. I don't like who he empowers and the way he empowers them. I didn't like when he hired Todd Moskowitz to run Asylum. I didn't think Todd, as a lawyer, knew anything about music. It just seemed like complete nepotism, and he was using other people's money.
All right, welcome back. This is Hanukkah Radio, and we have a special guest calling in today, a luminary in our business and a proud Jew, Lyor Cohen, ladies and gentlemen.
Clap it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Lyor,
Thank you. I'm so thrilled and honored to be asked to do your radio station, especially on the last day of Hanukkah. L'chaim. Shalom.
We are honored to have you.
How could I help you?
Well, Lyor, this one of the things we do here is we don't necessarily get too religious and talk about Hanukkah and what it stands for, although, we have gotten into that in the past, but it's more of a celebration of, Judaism and hip hop, since we are a hip hop station and that's what we do. And your roots are definitely in hip hop.
Jewish people have always been involved in urban cultural arts all the way back to the early beginnings of jazz music.
I've been looking into some of the people that Kanye West has been mentioning on some of the recent podcasts he's been on, like Irving Azoff, Barry Weiss, who is one of the architects of Britney Spears' meltdown, Doug Morris, Paul Rosenberg, one of Eminem's managers, Rick Rubin of Def Jam, Lyor Cohen, Lucian Grange, Monty Lipman, and Jerry Heller, who promoted NWA and gangster rap and a lot of music about shooting people, a lot of music about doing certain things to women. And this is something that Kanye talks about a lot. This is something that a lot of rappers and famous people talk about a lot. The promotion of genocide, which it literally is this. The promotion of murder, the promotion of sin, The molding of a culture through a popular culture that they literally invented themselves.
There is no Jewish media cabal, mafia. That is a figment of either your imagination or a projection of a prejudice, okay? You may have had bad business dealings with people. It's about those people. It's not about their religion or faith.
First of all, it's not just a religion. This is a major trick. Most of the people that Kanye West is talking about are irreligious. In fact, a lot of them identify as atheists. You know, Sarah Silverman is a perfect example. She identifies as a part of that group of people, but also identifies as atheist. So how does that make sense? And actually, if you look at statistics on Pew Research, they are the most irreligious group of people in the US. They say 70-something% of them say that remembering the you-know-what a cost is what it means to be them.
You're trying to say that there isn't a collective, over 50% of the executives in Hollywood, the CEOs are Jewish. And these guys know each other.
That's different than saying it's a mafia and that they act as Jews in some way, as opposed to just being businessmen. One plays to a prejudice, the other one just plays to people and an ugly business, which is what the record business is. So you can have your feelings about it, just don't ascribe it to their faith.
Again, not a faith. And actually, Ye's just a little bit off there. A group that makes up just 2% of the population, makes up about 80% of the positions of power in Hollywood, 80 to 90% of the positions of power in the music industry, 90+% of the media, most of the chairs of the Federal Reserve for I don't know how long, and the list goes on. But hey, Kanye, you're not supposed to talk about that. Don't paint with a broad brush. Get back to talking about slavery and critical race theory and stuff like this.
It's the biggest terror threat in this country.
So, look, there is no Jewish media cabal, mafia. That is a figment of either your imagination or a projection of a prejudice.
And to make a long story short, just to run down my resume really quickly, I created this show called Spring Bling. Artists like Eve, I helped create that image that we see of her now. Even after I left BET, I was Dave Chappelle's stand-in, so I saw everything that happened with him. And to really capitalize it even more, basically, since 1997, whatever has happened in urban America as far as the perception on television and film, I was basically the fly on the wall. So for me and the fellas around me, it was all fun, but we did not know that we were a part of a system. Even going back to what the brother talked about with the homosexuality with the rap, here's the kicker. It's not that the rappers are gay. That's not it. That's a misconception. What it is, it's about control. See, that's what makes it, that's why you see so many buffoons nowadays in television and film, doing things that we know are like, wow, Jamie Foxx, you would say that? Wow, Jay-Z, you would actually sit there and do an anti-Semitic commercial? Because they're in a bind, because see, Jay-Z's not gay. I'll use him as an example. He's not gay, but once you reach a certain level within that weapon of mass destruction, you have to give something up. There's something that you're going to give up because you got to be down with that crew. And how do I know? Because it happened to me. That is why I'm standing here talking right now. I reached a certain...
So I will say this again. I was mentally misdiagnosed and nearly drugged out of my mind to make me a manageable, well-behaved celebrity. Here's a text he posted from someone named Harley that says, I'm going to help you one of a couple ways. First, you and I sit down and have an loving and open conversation, but you don't use cuss words, and everything that is discussed is based in fact, and not some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you or you saw in a tweet. Second option, I have you institutionalized again where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to zombie land forever. Play date with the kids just won't be the same.
Wow. That's evil.
That's insane, man. That's scary stuff.
It's also blackmail, I think. I don't know who this person is, what kind of power they have.
Lucky enough to have him as my graduate advisor. And the area that I was interested in was how drugs and food affect muscular performance And
Or when you say drugs, are that like performance-enhancing drugs, or are they
all
just
kinds of drugs?
Oh, right. Okay.
So working for the military, I wasn't governed by the same laws that the typical person was. So I could look at the impact of certain drugs that are not everyday things. So we looked at a drug called modafinil, which was for narcoleptics. So if you give a soldier this drug, how long could they stay awake for without having any health detriment?
Is that used now as one of these brain drugs? I've heard the name before somewhere.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Modafinil, it will keep you awake, but it's not a stimulant.
Really?
So if a special forces person has to stay awake for 3 nights waiting for the right opportunity to do whatever they have to do, we could give them modafinil and it would keep them alert. I did research on a drug called acetazolamide, which is for use at high altitude so you don't get altitude sickness.
Y'all gotta stand up and admit to what y'all been doing. And y'all just got away with it for so long that y'all don't even realize what y'all doing. So for all the Jewish media, y'all wanna sit down and have a conversation with me? Then let's have a conversation. But you ain't gonna send Harley Pasternak, Puff Daddy, Meek Mills, Kim Kardashian, none of the usual suspects, and get me to stop talking. You're going to have to take my life. I don't care if you Black Mirror me. I don't care if you do some of the alternative, what the thing was, show me talking, saying somebody didn't say. I don't care if you have me fucking a goat on camera. I don't care what you do. You're going to have, yeah. And by the way, and if you take my life, there's gonna be some college kid, some young Ye, some young Pac that's gonna even go harder. It's gonna, y'all thought George Floyd was gonna send it up. If you took my life right now, you're gonna see something you never saw. So we might as well have a conversation because I love you.
Have the conversation.
I love the media platform.
And we love Jewish people. And we love Jewish people.
We love Jewish people. But I'm very mad. Yeah. I have a problem. The conversation ain't over. It ain't, okay, yay, clarify. It ain't nothing to be clarified until we have a conversation. You got Jamie Lee Curtis on TV talking about, I hope they take his children away from him.
Yeah.
It's up.
You think about if Harley was part of intelligence, right? What kind of people you think are surrounding my kids? What kind of people you think are in that house right now? When my kids go to Sierra Canyon, it's a Jewish school that doesn't teach Christianity to these Christian kids. At Christmas time, they're teaching Kwanzaa to Black kids. They say, hey, this is your Christmas. This is all indoctrination. This is all mind control. You gotta understand, like I don't believe I'm putting myself at risk because I think God uses me for a time like this. He put me in this situation and had y'all follow me from George Bush Don't Care to Beyonce Had the Best Video to now. For some reason, y'all are interested. 2 Chainz said, YSL belt buckle. Well, y'all niggas shoulders looking. Like, y'all are interested for some reason. And they wanted to medicate me every day. You realize, like, they could have just switched to medication and I wouldn't be here. And on the news, they would have said it was because of a mental issue, right? Yeah. I ain't never been back to the hospital since 2015, but every time they say I'm crazy, it's just when I'm saying the truth. So what's the crazy part, really? What's the crazy part, really?
If they can't scare you, they can't control you, they can't. They try to suppress you, but that's how they try to categorize
They can't control me. You get what I'm saying? They can control Shaq. They could control Charles Barkley. They could control LeBron James. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce.
But not you, man.
But they can't control me.
Not
you see,
you.
It ain't no name I won't name.
Exactly.
It's up.
Not you.
You know what I'm saying? And just for Minister Farrakhan, I love you, but the way you read that, I took that as a slight. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking no disrespect from nobody, so let's get on the phone and let's talk that out. I don't care who you are. I ain't taking no slice from nobody, right? I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God. That's the only person that I serve. My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
Me too.
You understand?
Yeah, I'm Christian too.
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son. right? Dr. Dre, his son. You're out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize. And God loved me. You understand? They hit me. Gap, Adidas, all that away. Still, Forbes, who hate me, right, had to write net worth 400 million. Jesus is king. God loved me.
That's more important thing in life.
That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? And this truth is gonna be heard. Y'all can't send none of y'all Meek Mills, y'all Puffies, y'all Lil Boozies, none of these names, none of these people that have to listen to y'all because they have legal. I never killed nobody, right? I'm the pussy that never killed nobody, right? But that means I can say whatever I want and not go to jail. And even if they did figure out a way, I'm still not backing down from what I said. It's Jewish people that did bad business. I'm Semite, so I can't be anti-Semitic. They stole our history from us. They stole who we are, and it's up. In Jesus' name, amen. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
But what do you think?
I don't think he's anti-Semitic. Jesus, like
No.
if it, there are. I said this to someone. There are far worse people in this world that we need to keep an eye on or cancel.
Yeah.
Kanye's definitely not one of them.
And he's not the first artist that has complained about their contract. Prince, for example. Prince had the word slave written on the side of his face because he had a bad record deal. He was upset with his business owners, that the label owners at Warner Brothers, for the deal that they had, you know?
Like Mariah Carey just had this big $20 million. It's like that's like a huge deal, right?
So you feeling that?
No, well, what I mean, I don't understand. What the public sees the word $20 million an album. Well,
let's see. Do you all think that's a good deal?
What, I mean, tell me why. I mean, what am I missing?
Okay, let's do some math.
Okay.
If
you do math like that?
Yeah, kinda. If you sign me,
Okay.
you signed me to a record company or a record deal, let's suppose you have a record company.
Right.
How much would you give me? The album sells for $18, right? $18.
Whatever, yeah.
All right. How much of that would you give me?
Well, I don't know how it works.
Well, no. Half. Half? Half sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Check this out. If I sell 1 million copies, I'm gonna have $10 million, right? Roughly $10 million.
Right.
If I sell 2 million copies, I got $20 million.
Right.
If I just sell 3 million copies, I got $30 million. Now who has the biggest record deal?
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Okay.
Right?
Right.
So Mariah kind of got screwed.
And we, like, not just Prince, we can even say
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle was
Yeah.
another one. And even many other artists and sports athletes that have been given such terrible contracts. But the people who are advantaged from these contracts are the people on top. They are the owners. They are the execs. They just see you as money. You are money. You are a dollar sign.
Yeah, you're monetized. And we know money is really important for most people, whatever. Unfortunately, there's a stereotype that money is very important to the Jewish community. And, as long as there's a monetary system in place, unfortunately, it incentivizes people to disadvantage one another.
Yeah.
So that's why when people speak about the word equality, in my mind, I'm like, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Because as long as there's money existing, there's a monetary system, someone is incentivized to disadvantage someone else to gain access to that money. There's no balance ever. There's no way you can ever balance that.
Yeah.
Even if one community gains more money than another community,
loses out.
Some other community might try to disadvantage another community, or one, if all women become very wealthy, women will abuse their power towards men, which has already happened in the cases of Me Too, or these sorts of crimes of life. Men can disadvantage women, women can disadvantage men. So the behavior isn't around gender. It's not even around race, but it's around, as long as there's a monetary system in place that we live in, we just got to deal with the fact that people will try to exploit each other. But across the board, Africans specifically, we've been just business for a very long time. And it's very personal for us, and we're fucking tired of it.
Being on the stage, the amount of training we have had, you know, the sitting party, I was very fortunate. In fact, he came to no, I talked to him before that, but I think it was when we came to Soldier's Play. And he said, "You're good."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and wow. I got a part in a movie in 1986. I called it The Nigga They Couldn't Kill.
Oh.
Yeah, he was supposed to be, he raped a white woman, and they tried to electrocute him, but it didn't work. And he became sort of a cult hero. No, not that one. That was the other awful one. But and then they tried to hang him, and they tried to do all this stuff. And I had a lot of training day in me. And there were some Jewish people in the audition, and I said, yeah. They said, no, it's funny. It's like they hang them and then they can't. I said, yeah, like you bring some Jewish people into a room and they think it's a shower, but it's gas. Oh. And they said, right. I said, right. That ain't funny. Mm. So to me, it wasn't funny about putting a rope around my MFN neck either. I made a point. The guy was like, who the hell was this little nigga talking like this? So anyway, make a long story long, I called Sidney, and I was sick because he told me to call him. If I, you know, I said, man, they offered me $600,000 to play the nigga they couldn't kill. And he said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. He said, I'm not going to tell you that, Denzel. He says, but I can tell you this. The first 2 or 3 or 4 films you do in this business will dictate how you're perceived in this business. Mm-hmm. So you make a decision. You know, he didn't tell me what to do, and I give him credit for that. And I turned it down, and 6 months later, I got Cry Freedom and got an Oscar nomination. So it could have gone an entirely, you know, you never know. Mm-hmm. It could have gone, my whole career could have gone an entirely different way, well, in a different way.
Okay,
yeah.
Ms. Davis?
And all the Jewish people now, just making a point. But I was dead serious about that, because they were laughing. Like, oh no, it's funny. They electrocute him, and then I could just see the poster with me with a rope around my neck. You know, I just had dreams about it. Like,
I have a question.
That wacky guy they tried to kill.
Why is this guy fooling around on television when he's making a brilliant movie like this? Tell me about that. Why'd you ever bother with TV, with all the censors and network executives, when you're so good and you're going to have one of the most brilliant comedic careers since Merman? I mean, it's going to be great. Tell me.
Tell you what?
Tell me what you do when you've had 3 hours sleep.
I get 5 more hours of sleep.
You want to take over for a while? Let me go in the back?
I get plenty of sleep.
You do?
Yes, I love
Sleep's important.
Yes, I love it.
It's cozy. You know?
It's nice.
Curl up with a pillow.
I prefer a woman.
You know something? So do I. It's one of the reasons why I was out so late last night, too, as a matter of fact.
Good for you.
I don't particularly want to be serious in this, but there are some things I am wondering about, though.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, that same question about why mess around with TV where you got restrictions and executives?
$2 million.
That'll do it, I guess, yeah. That'll do it. Well, I thought, you know, I checked this out with...
I was going to have a chart on the show. They wouldn't let me have it. I was going to have a chart. I was telling someone else this. I was going to have a chart to show that as the shows got worse, my money got larger. You know, I call it integrity chart. So, integrity 3, money 12.
I got it. By the time that this recent series was finished, what was your integrity mark?
I think my integrity was about 4.6.
On a 10 scale?
On a 5.
On a 5. You didn't do too badly.
No.
Well, I checked it with Gwen Barrett and with Gary Hoffman, and we want you to know that this appearance at midday today, you can do anything you want. I don't want you to feel restricted. If there's anything they wouldn't let you do on NBC, we'll let you do it here.
Thank you. Would the lady in the blue dress please come forward? The television thing, you know, a lot of people said it was canceled, and the show wasn't canceled. You know, we only did 4 shows, and that was our intent, because it's hard work trying to do something and people telling you you can't.
It must be tough, you know, looking over your shoulder.
And they lie. Grown men lie. to you, to your face.
Like what? Can you give me an example?
Well, we'll fix that. It's not our fault. And I'll be right back. I'll be with you Wednesday. We'll talk about it.
And then they'll go to somebody else.
Fix it. You know, make sure that doesn't get on, okay? Don't tell him I said so.
Right? And then they look you in the face, and I want to hit them in the face, you know? And you can't do that because the court, they sue you now. You know?
Yeah, that's this new thing.
Yeah, it's $60,000 for a left hook. It's not worth it.
No. Well,
and plus, you might get dusted, too, and it's very embarrassing. You know, you don't always win them fights when you be hitting somebody.
No.
It's very embarrassing to have an old white man whoop you at NBC. All through the halls.
So how'd you leave it with these characters?
Well, I left it like I went. I left everything intact, said so long, and thank you very much, and see you at the Bank of America.
Do you think that based on your experiences on television that you'll get back into it? I mean, if the money is right, would you go back? Or?
It's not about that. It's mostly about what I really want to do is just do the show. I have to do some specials. So what I'm going to do is do the specials and give it to them, and they can do with them what they want.
Yeah. Well, what kind of stuff are they giving you the most trouble about in terms of censorship? Nudity or lying?
Like waking up.
Just getting out of bed in the morning?
They just have it in their minds that they want to hire somebody, but they don't want any communication made. You know, they want to like make you into something. I don't know. It's like, I guess it goes into white homes. They're worried about that a lot.
What are they? Yeah, you know, it's funny. Gwen Barrett, our associate producer, or sometime producer, is black. You know, and Carmen Matias is Hispanic.
You have to be colored to be on television. You can't,
yeah, colored.
Yes, you can't be black. You have to have a little colored in there. Just a taste.
Tad.
Yeah, just to keep it interesting for America.
Yeah. Well, she said, we were talking about your humor, that your humor offends white people, and I'm not that easily offended. Like, I'm not coming from a spot where Richard Pryor is going to offend me. I think you have humor that makes us see a lot of the truth and laugh at things we wouldn't normally laugh at. I think that's part of what you're doing. What do you think that these executives are afraid you're going to do to white America?
Probably stop some racism.
Stop racism?
Yeah. I'm probably afraid of that because then people don't hate each other. And people start talking to each other, and then they start talking to each other, they find out who's the problem.
Which is?
Greedy people.
Greedy people. I have a couple things I want to ask you there. Do you really think that some of the guys that you dealt with at NBC, no names, right? Because there's lawsuits for that too, that some of these guys really want to promote racism actively, or is it a subconscious?
I just think it's part of capitalism, is to promote racism, you know. Right? In order to make things work. If you feel better because you're white and you can get a job, you use that. I mean, you know, I would.
Absolutely.
Say, I'm sorry, Jack, but shit, they say I'm white. I'm going to use this.
Right, absolutely.
Get this job. I'm hungry, you know. But, and that separates people. So they keep people separated, and that keeps them from thinking about the real problem. That's as simple as I see it. Probably it's not that simple, but...
Now, all right. You and I are about the same age, right? We're in our mid-30s. How long is it going to take before guys who think like you, and I say guys who think like me, people who don't want to have racism in the country, people who don't want to be oppressing any minority, whatever it is, sexual, whatever minority, really get into positions of power and can change things?
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you're like the people that are in power. To me, I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, people that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
I don't know, maybe...
They go in with good intentions, but it eats them up. It's like a cesspool, you know, it just gets on you and it starts
eating. The system levels them.
Pretty soon it's all gone.
Is that what a cesspool sounds like?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back right after this.
Okay.
Here's a good guy, Richard Pryor.
Since there is no humanity, then there has to just be God and man, and you can't serve two masters. So, who are you working for? Bro, we be having to act like housekeepers in America. The most influential, strongest black voices have to act like housekeepers. And what I mean by that is, and I love housekeepers, right? But a housekeeper, if one housekeeper speaks up, they're going to say, shut up, you're going to get us all fired.
That's our position. We were brought over here in servitude to this country. So as soon as we start to make any moves, if it's not the way that we were told, the way that we were bought, the way we, then you crazy.
You know, so sorry, we're not going to go and be angry. We're not going to start a race war. We're not going to go fight Christian evangelists who made money during the slave trade. We know some of them did. But in the case of entertainers, sports athletes, actors, people across the board, if you are in entertainment and we make good art, we make stuff hip. Why do you think there's a rap song in every commercial that you see on TV, or there's an 808 beat? It's because that's our culture. We make stuff cool, flavorful. We add a new perspective on stuff. That means we have value. But the fact that we have value and the money's going into somebody else's pocket, and then we're being told not to share these educational secrets with our community is asinine, and it's not right. We need more humanity out of people, and we need to bring people together. Sorry, you've made enough money. You've made enough money, and you can't keep the world divided forever. Even if you try to censor us, you're only showing your hand again. That's what happened with Kanye. You showed your deck of cards, you know? So I'm sorry, but change is inevitable. Let's do better by each other.
That's true.
Let's make better business. Let's make better contracts for people. Let's bring humanity together as a whole so that we all can flourish. And that might not be what some people want, but I know there's some good people in the Jewish community that do want that do want true unity for people.
Yeah.
People need to be unified regardless of your religion or race.
Making them white, because I'm saying biblically, can we talk geographically and scientifically? Fuck all the spiritual shit.
Right. And I know where you're going with this.
You know where I'm going with this? I'm saying
the original Jews and Jesus and everyone else were all people of color. Point blank. It can't be.
No, you say this.
You say it. Argued.
I want you to say that. Let it come out your mouth. Go ahead. Do it one more time.
The original Jews, Jesus, and everyone else who was living in the Middle East. So let me tell you something. I have been to the Middle East. Go out there. I have been to Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain. All these places I have been to. Egypt. All these places. It's all brown people. It's near the equator. Okay? This is how it works. Now, did some of those people move to different parts of the world and, have babies with people who didn't look like them? White people, Asian people, Spanish people, and then start to look like those people 100 generations later? Because we're talking about 2,000 years, right? That's 100 generations. Yes. Is my bloodline linked to the original Jews? I don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't give a shit. Do I consider myself chosen? No. The whole concept is fucking stupid. Not only is it stupid for Jews to think that way, but it also creates animosity for people who feel they're not chosen, because then there's animosity towards the people who think they're chosen. Then you get the arrogance of the people who think they're chosen. And all it does is a big divisive clusterfuck that pisses everyone off and ain't based on nothing. It's all fucking mythology and fairy tales and everything else like that. Because let me tell you something. As much as someone believes in Jesus today, there was someone who believed in Thor just as strongly. Someone believed in Zeus way stronger than the most ardent
and the Hindu
Muslim
gods with the 8 arms, everybody. Right?
Yes, yes.
Right. No, you see.
I have to say, after all this, people have to remember Kanye is a human.
He's a human, man. Like, censorship is bad. If it comes to you, how would you feel?
Yeah, you'd probably be kicking and screaming.
Exactly.
And he does not have an army. He's not coming for anyone.
Yeah.
He's just a man who's saying some things, and I think we can all be allowed.
He's a father.
Yeah.
He's a human being. He's a father, and you try to take away someone's livelihood. Yeah. They say, Chappelle was saying to take away a man's livelihood, to censor him, is akin to killing him.
Yeah.
Because you kill his inability to even take care of his own family.
That's so true.
So.
Amen. But yeah, just try to remember that if you can, that'd be lovely. And remember, we're humans too, but all love from us, you know.
Love, man.
And our videos are not here to hate on anyone, or I have Jewish friends who are amazing. I don't hate Jewish people. You just have to remember and try to keep an open mind when you watch these things.
Yeah.
Besides that, absolutely love you guys.
Shout out to my Jewish friends. Shabbat shalom.
Yeah.
You know, it's all good. You know, we just I respect cultures all around the world because everybody has a different upbringing and ways that they learn and go about life. For African Americans, we're still trying to get ourselves together because we've been just exploited for too long. Most of us don't even know what part of Africa we came from. We all speak English now, but we're not from England. You know, all of this is very confusing. I didn't learn about how a functioning family should be like until I got exposed to other cultures, and I got a chance to see that because we've been so divided, you know, post-feminism, single-parent homes, welfare.
With the New Deal, state legislators began to pass bills that supported single mothers called Mother's Pension. Since the states operated these programs, administrators were not regulated by federal government. The lack of governing of the Mother's Pension program meant that states could deny services and money to qualifying Black mothers. This aspect of the law caused great issues as it would set the precedent for caseworkers and states to set forth even more provisions in order to keep Black families from receiving government assistance or giving up something of equal value in order to receive such help. While the practice was illegal with no penalty for continuing it, the tactic became more common, allowing caseworkers to essentially control people's lives. Rules regarding a suitable home were enacted without giving Black people a clear idea of what that would entail. In the South specifically, Blacks saw great pushback when it came to receiving government assistance, with states posing stipulations that discouraged a complete Black family. Alabama is one state that stands out as the state independently submitted a plan in 1964 about a substitute parent rule that would effectively harm Black families specifically. Aspects of the proposal stated that a child would have a substitute father, hereby disqualifying their home from receiving government assistance if a substitute father lives in the home with the child's mother for the purpose of cohabitation, if he frequently visits to cohabitate with the mother, or if he does not frequent the home but cohabitates with the child's natural or adoptive mother elsewhere. Courts notoriously gave men payments to make that were outlandish with penalties that would make it impossible for them to get the money needed. This action, unsurprisingly, would lead to an uptick in crimes committed by many Black men of the time. Black families today see nearly half of their homes without a father and are still financially trying to catch up in society.
So we can build and do for ourselves, and we must have some land. 40 million people, you know, it's a lot of Negroes just in New York and Cleveland, Baltimore, Washington, California. It's a lot of Black. Woo, that's a whole nation. 40 million, man. They don't tell you the truth about that. They want us to stop having babies. They give them birth control. They're paying Black women not to have babies. It's 40 million, not 20 million? Yeah, they're paying Black women not to have babies now. They got all kind of plans to stop our race.
Well, everyone.
So when we know all of this,
getting into birth
so now
control,
a man with my knowledge, what can you tell a man like me now? What's your suggestion? That's your question. Okay, you talking to me, not a dumb Negro or pork chop eater, don't know the truth. I'm free now. I woke up. Now, what are you gonna tell me now? I done gave you my solution, some land of my own, doing something for myself like you, England, and America do. Now, I know you're not against the Black man. I know you're not against me having my land, are you? I know you English done ruled and slaved forever for a long time. But do you still today don't want me to have my own country and build for myself and govern myself? Would you think that's bad if we thought like that? What's your solution to my problem? 1974, you all just, white man just flew from New York to England in an hour, less than 2 hours. You all are so progressive. You're walking around on other planets. Now, today, I'm intelligent too now. What's your suggestion? What should be my movement? Integrate?
Yeah, equal rights in a mixed society.
In this society, where you still own the government, you still own the train station, the railroad plant, the lecture plant, these television cameras, you still make all the food, you control everything, and I'm like a leech on a dog's back. All I can do is just wait for you. I can't do nothing for myself. Integrating in your society don't mean I'm doing nothing for myself. You doing it all. I want to do something for myself. I'm tired of depending on you. You might get broke one day. Your stores might close. Your gas pumps might cut off again. I'm relying on you now. Can I have my own land and country?
Well, you've got your own freedom here. For instance, I know you're luckier than many black people
I'm
in
not talking
America,
about
but
me.
you're your own
I'm
boss.
speaking for my nation.
I know, I appreciate
If I was
that.
representing just me, I wouldn't be talking like this, because I got it made. I'm talking for my brothers who's out
But
there
I just
catching
don't see how, Mohammed,
You
I
don't
don't
see
see how you can slice up America into bits and get
Well,
all the
then we
whites in
leave.
one area and all the blacks
Well,
in another.
then we leave then. We leave.
But they'd miss you.
I know it.
You know, and all these social systems that are in place that keeps society in these little sub-pockets but not coming together. So yeah, this is all important, and Benda hit the hammer right on the bum. It exploded. Ass juice went everywhere. Sorry, don't mind the comedy. But I'm trying to get you guys to laugh, okay? Laugh. This is all love, and yeah, so thank you guys for having an open ear and tuning in, and we hope, you know, we touched on something that maybe could add a new perspective on the lens, you know?
Yeah, thinking outside the box.
Yeah, exactly. Benda got the box here, you know. Look at it. Look at it. We can do that.
Boom.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, that's the outro, guys. No joke. But love you guys very much, man. And remember, it's all love. Love leads. You know, lead with love. And even if that comes with a mirror that gets turned on you, self-improve. Yeah. Because we all have to. We can't go through life and saying this is the way it's always been. It's like, yeah, that's why Nokia failed as a cell phone company, you know, or Blockbuster, you know. So you have to adapt, you have to change, and not adapt to exploiting people in a better way, you know, with a new system, but adapt to just wanting to do right by people, because you're always going to face resentment by trying to exploit people. And whether that's historical claims that people have been exploited by a certain community or not.
I'm going to tell you the story of how the life of little Mary Fagan came to an end, how the Anti-Defamation League rose to power, and why the ADL seeks to erase this moment from the pages of history. As a reminder, facts are not hateful, and as the quote goes, truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just let it loose, and it'll defend itself. Travel back in time to over a century ago, to my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, April 26, 1913. Post-Civil War, Atlanta had finally stopped smoldering. Businessmen and workers alike flocked south for opportunity. One of these businessmen was a 29-year-old Jewish man by the name of Leo Frank, who was raised in New York and had spent the last several years touring Europe after graduating from Cornell, learning the ways of business so he could run Atlanta's National Pencil Company. Outside of work, Frank was heavily involved in the local Jewish community, becoming president of the Atlanta chapter of B'nai B'rith, which is kind of like a Masonic society with their lodges and doings, but only for Jewish members. B'nai B'rith is the ADL's parent organization and was founded in 1843 in New York as a Jewish counterpart of fraternal orders that were then flourishing in America. On this tragic Saturday in 1913, Mary set out to collect her paycheck and meet her boy sweetheart outside of the factory that afternoon so they could go watch the parade together. Sadly, that never happened. Leo Frank would be the last known person to see Mary Fagan alive. The following morning, before the sun had even risen in the east, the night watchman, also known as the security guard of the pencil factory, a black man by the name of Newt Lee, discovered Mary's dead and brutally beaten body discarded in the basement of the factory, amongst a sea of bloody pencil shavings with a cord around her neck. And beside her body, 2 notes describing her murderer through Mary's point of view. She wrote about a long, tall black man called the Night Witch. It was written like she scribbled it down in her final moments, even though the note wasn't in her handwriting. Her autopsy later revealed that the 13-year-old had not only been beaten, but raped by her killer. Of course, Newt Lee was immediately brought in for questioning. He was the main suspect. Keep in mind that Frank, on top of murdering Mary Fagan, had tried to pin the murder on 2 different black men. Frank claimed that rape and murder were black crimes, and any black person who testified against him should be barred because their testimony was invalid based on their skin color. When the public heard that Governor Slayton had reduced Frank's sentence, they were angry. They believed the justice system had failed Mary Fagan, the real victim. After all, Governor Slayton was a former partner at the law firm of Frank's defense team. So the public suspected some under-the-table deals and bribery. As a result, a group of about 25 men who called themselves the Knights of Mary Fagin took justice into their own hands. They kidnapped Leo Frank from prison and hanged him in Marietta, Georgia, his body facing the direction of the Fagin residence. You remember I told you in the beginning that Leo Frank was the president of the Atlanta chapter of B'nai B'rith, an organization whose mission preaches philanthropy and community outreach. But apparently they did a little bit too much community outreach because they were accused of espionage during the Civil War and implicated in the assassination of President Lincoln, with the goal of subverting and fragmenting America so that it could once again fall under the British crown. And this was documented by both Gentile and Jewish scholars alike. They were accused of being spies for the crown. It didn't matter to B'nai B'rith that Leo Frank was found guilty and convicted of murder by a unanimous jury. Even when he was sitting in his jail cell, the Atlanta chapter re-elected Frank as president. Members of B'nai B'rith stated that they believed the real murderer was Jim Conley, the janitor. And the testimony of a black man, a second-class citizen in their eyes, was unreliable. Furthermore, B'nai B'rith claimed that the trial was too hasty, and the only honest people in the courtroom were Frank and his defense team. Everybody else, they claim, was either bribed, threatened, or fell under one all-encompassing term, an anti-Semite.
It's an internal talk that the Jewish community should have with themselves, and also understand other people chiming in about it means that we're all human, and we have to do better too.
I want to talk about Dave Chappelle. He did a skit, or he did a monologue on Saturday Night Live a few days ago, had everybody talking. I thought it was a dope piece of work. We seen the leader from the ADL make a statement today or yesterday, I believe. He said, we shouldn't expect Dave Chappelle to serve as society's moral compass, but disturbing to see NBC SNL not just normalize, but popularize hashtag anti-Semitism. Why are Jewish sensitivities denied or diminished at almost every turn? Why does our trauma trigger a pause? Now, I'm not sure if you saw the monologue, but if you did, how did you feel about it? And do you express the same sentiments as Mr. Greenblatt?
No, I probably agree with him on almost nothing, but, not to take away from him. I personally saw a little bit of it, and I think Dave Chappelle's hilarious. He's such a funny guy. If you look at like South Park, it's a comedy show made by Jews, but in it, they use such derogatory Jew hate terms, dirty Jew, Jewish money. They threw out these words. The ADL never said anything to them, It's a bunch of Jewish guys who were writing it. They never said anything. All of a sudden, now you see Dave Chappelle come out. It was actually funny, and probably a lot of it was he was saying was true. So what's causing these guys to get so triggered? It's a good question. I think the main fear is putting Jewish safety at risk, because there's places now where Jews are getting attacked at random in America for being a Jew, punched in the face, their hats knocked off. And we're trying to prevent that. So with so much trauma, it's like the analogy I gave before of the lady who used to get, hit by the husband. When she drops something, she's scared it's going to get hit. So now when she drops something, let's say the husband changed his ways, she's still going to flinch. She's still going to get very scared, because in her brain is the pattern that when you do X, Y will, Y and Z will happen. So these people are like, and it was a little insensitive at the time, when the Jewish people are like, whoa, stop talking about us and mixing us with, other groups of evil people. We don't want to be mixed together with that. Then Dave Chappelle just come up right on there and start to like stoke the coals. It looks like they're pushing the divide and conquer strategy. It looks like there's an agenda that wants to create a separation between my community and your community. And for me, that's like the red flag. So I'm like smelling through all this nonsense. I'm like getting to the bottom of it. And I'm like, why don't they want us to talk and collaborate? Something's going on.
Do you think people within the ADL or in higher Hollywood, whatever the case may be, have a disdain towards black people? Because as I watched that, something that really stuck out to me was he said nigga twice on there, on SNL, on NBC, and they let that fly. People were losing their minds laughing. But when he made jokes about the Jewish community, everybody was up in arms. Everybody was upset. And we're all supposed to be leading a cause against hate. But it seems like it's a very specific, generalized part and section of hate that we need to generalize, and everything else is all right, fair game. What do you think about that?
Well, let me just put it, I have two things. One is, let's say I start dropping the N-word, right? not okay. I don't have permission to do that. It's not allowed. It's not okay.
Neither should I, and I shouldn't have said it either. It shouldn't be accepted through anybody, but we know how it
Okay,
is.
I like that and I agree with that, but it happens to be today culturally from your community. It's allowed, it's there, and it's understood and it's accepted that this is a word that gets used. So, for example, sometimes I go to the airport, and I'm going through the security, and when you get to the security at the airport, there's a lot of pennies on the floor. So people emptying out their pockets. So I'm always like picking up pennies on the floor over there because I bring it to Jerusalem and I give charity. Every penny is a mitzvah. It's a commandment. You're doing a good deed with it. So I enjoy picking up the pennies. But when everyone looks at me, I'm always making a joke. Like, you always got the classic Jewish guy picking up pennies on the floor. And I'll make a joke about myself because you could do that because I'm Jewish. No one's going to get triggered by it. But if an African American guy was like, oh, you Jews picking up pennies, it's like, wait a minute, can you say that? So I think it goes both ways. I can't start saying N-words and other people can't start making Jewish penny jokes. Everyone can make, criticize their own selves or their own communities. But I think that's silly also. We shouldn't have an ego. My feelings shouldn't have to be hurt if you have something to say about us. But it's all fun and games until it becomes, physical violence towards Jews. Then it's like we're just so much trauma. We're not having any of it. So I think the ADL is probably protecting a beast that the Jewish people communicate and miscommunicate as themselves. Like the Jewish people are like, oh, the ADL is here for me. ADL is not here for you, Jewish people. They're protecting something much bigger. They just, the name Jew is just covering both realities, the thing they're protecting and you simple folk who are just trying to make a living and stay humble.
I think it's a good segue to go into what Kanye was saying about hip hop and Jewish executives. In one particular comment, he talked about how, in black hip hop music, we could talk about kill this, nigga that, and it's pretty much there's no outrage, black on black. But as soon as somebody says something about the Jewish people, it seems like it's all hell breaks loose. But a lot of these execs we already established in hip hop are Jewish. How come they promote, fund, the destruction of black people through the music? But as soon as somebody says something about Jewish people, it's all hell breaks loose. But when it's black people, it's like they fund that and they don't care.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, but it's such a complex thing because no one should have the right to, the fact that they're promoting violence and drugs and then making that an avenue of like financial success. So now I'm a young African American kid and I want to get some money when I'm older. I got to start like training myself. If I want money, I got to rap about killing and drugs and and be hardcore. So that's something that's being set by the Jewish people. But let me ask you a few questions just on this. Let's say like, and I'm not a professional. Like let's look at like Def Jam Records or like, some of these guys. Is there African American owned media that's still promoting, violence and drugs and gangster living outside of Jewish ownership? Is that exclusive only to Jews owning these companies, or there's also African American owned?
What company does African Americans own?
I don't know. That's why I'm saying this question out of ignorance. I was asking you more.
It's usually a part. It's usually like a sometimes it's a partnership deal, but most of the time it's Jewish owned. They'll have like Def Jam, Rockefeller,
Records and all this. Is this Jewish guy at the top of it?
Say it again. I didn't hear that part. The first
Like
part.
Def Jam Records or NWO or whatever it is. These are Jewish owned things at the top of it.
Like Def Jam, for example. Sorry to cut you off. The current CEO of Def Jam, his name is Paul Rosenberg. He's been there since January 1st, 2018. The founders were Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons. So,
right. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, we do. Participate in it as well. I get where you're trying to go with that as well. But it's still the underlying issue of the majority of these companies being ran by Jewish people that promote and fund this message. Can we agree with that?
Yeah, it seems very shady. It seems that there should be, these are, I don't know if these are people that have like rabbis that could even call them. These are like rabbi-less individuals. These are godless individuals. These aren't people that have God in their lives. So it's not like we can get all the rabbis together and like sit them down and have a sit down. Well, they're going to listen to the rabbi. They're not even listening to God. How they're going to listen to a rabbi? But I'm with you on the fact that there should be no Jew involved.
See you.
Yeah, I had this phone call coming in. It shuts it off. But I'm with you. If there was like a march against Jews who are promoting drugs and violence in the African American community and creating a poisonic, toxic environment for you guys, I'm on your team. That's totally evil. But like I said, I think these Jews finding these roles are serving something darker and higher than themselves. They're not the boss. Like, they're getting a paycheck from someone also, and that someone's the guy that the ADL is like, don't get to him. Like, don't get to the top of the ladder. Who these guys working for? You can't talk about that. And so I'm always curious, like, who's really calling the shots? You know, because it's not the Jewish people. It's some darker fraternity stuff. You know what I'm saying?
And to the best of your knowledge, who do you think, or in your opinion, who do you think those higher up people are, and where do you think the separation came between Jewish executives in Hollywood and music and yourself? Let's just put it like that.
I think the guys who are really at the top, you don't get to know their names because they pay for you not to know who they are, you know? So the names that we're even given are the names that they let us get, you know? So you're going to throw out like, oh, Rockefeller and this name and that name. Those are the names they gave us access to. The names that we don't get access to is because they're the ones who are owning the wealth of the world, you know, calling the shots with wars, you know, and creating agendas to manipulate humanity. But where it stops and, you know, separates me from these individuals is they give an allegiance to something that's not Jewish. You know, these guys are all part of fraternities, you know, whether it's Masonic or, you know, their clubs from college, their, you know, with their Greek symbols and their cults and their rituals. I know, you know, I don't want to get too deep into it until the right time is, because this is like even dangerous for me to be talking about this type of stuff because we're up against a very dark force, you know. But these are people who get paid by these entities, are loyal to these entities, and the Jewish people are just trying to unite the tribes, the lost tribes, and build a temple for all humanity and bring world peace. There's like two totally different realities. And I think if you looked at, like, you know, the last few hundred years of Europe, when these Jews started joining these fraternities and getting involved in the banks and the wealth and financing wars, they started taking on customs and traditions that had nothing to do with the Jewish people and the Torah. So there's just this divide going on, and the Jewish people aren't so aware of it. So part of my job is to explain it, and even part of the Jewish prophecies and our legends, we believe within the Jewish people there will be a dark side in the future that we're going to have to deal with. My ancestors taught this 400 years ago. I was a famous rabbi. I speak about this, and so I have a job to educate my people of stop defending the evil within us, because that's going to hold us back from the ingathering, the redemption, and uniting with the lost tribes of Israel, which seems part of them came to America on these slave ships. So there's an agenda that doesn't want, like I said before, your community and my community building. That's the last thing they're going to want. They're going to want us to be divided, calling each other enemies, and do everything in their power to make sure a healthy conversation doesn't come out of what's going on.
So we want everyone to just be fair, all right? Love you guys, love each other, be fair out there.
Yo, yes, that's it for me. Thank you again for tuning in, everyone. You guys are amazing.
That's right. Subscribe.
Right down the bottom.
Put it in the comments if there's something we missed, or if you've got a feeling that it's something we didn't touch on, you felt like we were being too biased, or anything of that sort, and we'll get back to you. You know, we'll touch on it, or we'll ignore it completely. No, I'm joking. No, but seriously, give us some feedback on things that we can self-improve on, because that's what this whole conversation is about. It's about self-improving. We're trying to do better, you know, and we're trying to say society, no matter your community, you got to do better. We all should do better. Love you guys. Love you.
Thank you. We out.
Dudes, Bureau out. Peace. You see it? Rack it up, rack it up. Rack it up, rack it up. Clap it up, clap it up. Tell her, shake it up, shake it up. Sorry, guys.
When you look at my brothers, what's your first impression? Does the sight of us leave you guessing, or do you understand the stressing, the aggression, the look of no hope on my niggas' faces, like the Lord overlooked us when he handed down his graces? You see, embraces, fall short on the numb tips of street entrepreneurial fingers. Stuck in the walls of the project halls where the coke smell still lingers. External blingers is all we can be, cause on the inside we've been given nothing to shine on. And a gig is harder to get than coke, so niggas get their grind on, cause the TV tells us, aim high, nigga, make all goals lateral. But that takes paper that we don't have, so niggas put their souls up as collateral now. Some niggas reclaim them, some blame them, make an excuse to sell them. But when a nigga goes from not doing to doing, what can you tell him? Not to be a nigga, not to be a nigga.
You, I swear, ain't no game when the target's not your aim. And you are not to blame, but you farther than you came. They say it's just a picture, but it's all about the frame. Resolution 4, get impacted in your brain. Now it's just a shame that these niggas fight the fame. Farther from the art, the position that they came. You never heard my name, don't run it by your lane. That pain will get you stained, that pain will get you stained. Departure from the author with this novel on the game. I ain't flossing with you niggas cause the pain been ordained. Departure from the author with this novel on the game. I ain't flossing with you niggas cause the pain been ordained. Depression.
Shit, I gots to be a nigga, that's how I pay the bills. And I'ma do that whether I got to sling this coke or exploit these rhyme skills. See, America makes you an opportunist, and at the same time they institutionalize you. So the fact that niggas get these big record deals, big money, and then go to jail shouldn't surprise you. That's what lies do. And most of these guys do have raw talent, just infantile education. So the business feeds them all the weed and ecstasy and a little bit of paper to provide some pacification. From all the bullshit frustration they serve you. Meanwhile, they corrupt your perception of what the real is. See, they taken all our businessmen and made them drug dealers. Took all our messengers, made them rappers, just slapping their jaws, afraid to admit their treason. 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 Admit their treason.
I'm Michael now. Every Michael you can think of, but mostly Godfather Michael now. No, I'm Michael now.
But first, Michael Jackson has been forced to apologize to the Jewish community for some lyrics in one of his new songs. They Don't Care About Us, one of 15 new songs on the History album, includes the line Jew me, sue me, followed by a similar use of the anti-Semitic word kike. But Jackson says, quote, "My intention was for this song to say no to racism, anti-Semitism and stereotyping. Unfortunately, my choice of words may have unintentionally hurt the very people I wanted to stand in solidarity with." Foo Fighters.
By the way, I love Jewish people.
I bet you do. I bet you do. Well, I bet you a lot of them love you.
The story is usually the same, though. You know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same. They usually are broken, torn, and usually just sad, and the story is very sad in the end because the companies take advantage of them. They really do. And Sony being the artist that I am at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion. They never thought that this performer, myself, would outthink them.
I'm Michael now.
How do you feel when they call you Wacko
Wacko Jacko? It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
There are those who would say that you add to the attention.
No, I don't.
Well, the masks, the mysterious behavior.
There's no mysterious behavior. Maybe I like to live that way. I like to dress that way. Should not say he's an animal. Should not say he's Jacko. I'm not a Jacko. I'm Jackson. I have a heart and I have feelings. I feel that when you do that to me. It's not nice.
So sometimes people call me classist when I talk about money, and I say, yo, I bring up money. I respect money and the construct of it inside of this game of life, but I also bring it up to say, well, if I'm so crazy, why do I have the ability to make so much more of the thing that you care the most about? They say you're crazy until you're right. All right.
I'm Michael now. I am the richest.
Right. They say you're the richest black man in American history.
In history.
In America.
In history.
Can we make some noise for that, goddammit?
I want y'all to run up on me.
No.
I want y'all to come kill me.
No.
I want you to smack me.
No.
I want you to do all the shit you rap about.
Como la estrella de televisión del oeste.
So, look, there is no Jewish media cabal, mafia. That is a figment of either your imagination or a projection of a prejudice.